Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Odos? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show. We are ready to go. It's exciting. Listen, we just got past week 1 of the NFL. A lot of upsets, a lot of things that we never saw coming. It just happened. We didn't anticipate a lot of the offenses, how poorly they played or how good that the team played. So we're going to take a look back at that. But before we get to do it, listen, if you could just do me a huge favor, if you're new to the show, please help our channel out. It really helps us out with the algorithm and all that. But if you could head over to YouTube, search us up, Football on the Know Show. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. And you can also follow us and become a member, become a know-it-all on Facebook as well. But Jim, and let's not just stop there, but also it's utter chaos happening right now. Oh my God, things are falling. Football's flying all over the place. Bodies are falling.
The sky might be falling right now with the way week 1 was, Joe.
Right,
It was
and
amazing.
injuries. There's been a week 1 injury. There's been several of those. We're going to touch on that as well.
Absolutely, and yeah, I mean, a lot of upsets, and it started off with the Thursday night game. But like you said, a lot of injuries. Let's get to the impactful injuries here. And first of all, I think the most impactful right now has got to be the Dak Prescott here. He's out 6 to 8 weeks with a fractured thumb. Joe, Cowboys fans, they've got to be losing their minds right now, again, because every year they think that they're poised right there to take the division. Again, even though the Eagles, with what they did on paper here at the draft, with the trades and stuff that they made, looked like they were going to look pretty good, but, the Cowboys always there. And now the fact that you lose Dak Prescott, and even before, up until that day, you didn't even have any backups in your depth chart until you signed Cooper Rush off of the practice squad into being dressed for that game. So if they didn't even do that and they just rode with Dak, what kind of trouble they would have been in even more in that game?
Well, the thing is that they signed 2 of their quarterbacks they released to their own practice squad. So they already had them under the belt.
Right.
And what was surprising to me is that a lot of quarterback needy teams, or teams that are uncertain about their starter going into week 1. I was surprised that like a guy like Cooper Rush was out there, went through the waiver wire, and nobody put a claim in for him. So that was a little surprising to me, because I still think he's a decent backup for the Cowboys. And but sure enough, they were lucky to grab him, get him right back on the practice squad, and here you go. This is the reason why you need depth, not just at running back or wide receiver, but every position on the football field, because things like this do happen. Dak Prescott, huge blow to the Cowboys fan base and everything, because in the organization, Dak Prescott is so important for not only this offense, but the team as well. He's seen as a major leader in the locker room, and a guy that a lot of people lean on when times get tough. So Dak Prescott, it seems like he's going to be likely out 6 to 8 weeks. However, if you ask Jerry Jones, he has other ideas. He thinks he's going to be able to come back in 4 weeks, which would be a miracle, I think, in my eyes. So it was initially reported 6 to 8 weeks, but Jerry Jones says otherwise. He says that he has a good feeling that he'll be back in less than that time frame, into 4 weeks. I don't think that's going to happen. I know Jerry Jones is wishful thinking, but
maybe Jerry Jones has been taking that ayahuasca stuff that Aaron Rodgers has been into.
No, because that just mellows you out. Has nothing to do with being smart. So Jerry Jones and how he
said
likes
he's not
to rule
put
his
him
team.
on the temporary IR, and said he wants to keep him ready just in case he comes back for 4 weeks.
I mean,
But
it makes
think that's-
sense.
Yeah, but I mean, why rush it though? Even too. I mean, do you really feel like you're poised to win? The Super Bowl right now. Why don't you wait
Every
a
year
little bit,
they do.
see what you got, and then you've got even 8 weeks in between, and you just got to take the division. And everybody knows that this division isn't really tough. So, I mean, you have to just be able to beat those teams that are there, really, to take the division and sneak in. We've seen teams sneak in with a 6-10 record before. So they just need to muster up just a few to get close, I think, in this one. Because if you looked at week 1 even, too, I don't know if any other team besides even the Cowboys, you see the Eagles and Washington Commanders ended up coming out with a win, running really away with this division at all.
I will say that the Eagles definitely have an offense, and they looked really good. So, and the defense, I still think needs some work, especially for Philly. But I would say this: I don't think. There's never been a team in this division where they just run away with it. You know what I mean? It's always close, regardless of how good or bad the teams are. This division is very competitive with each other. So I think, all in all, it's going to come down to the end no matter what. Even if, let's just say, week 1, what we saw is we liked what we saw from the Eagles. They played pretty well, but Cowboys. We've talked about it before the season even started, in the injuries that they were already sustaining before we even got here. Now you lose your starting quarterback for who knows how long, and that usually means losses are going to pile up. And can you dig yourself out of the gutter when Dak comes back? And when Dak does, in fact, come back, is he going to come back 110% ready to go, or is he going to struggle a little bit until he gets back on track? So there's a lot of question marks, and let's just throw another one out there for Dallas. Your receiving core is not scaring anybody. CeeDee Lamb, listen, time and time again, even coming out of the draft, we felt that CeeDee Lamb was not he is a really good receiver, but he's not a number 1, and he proved it last week. So he is a really good number 2, but they still don't have that number 1 aspect to their game, and they're still waiting on Michael Gallup for him to come back healthy to kind of alleviate that pressure on just CeeDee Lamb alone.
Right. I mean, and to compound on top of things, I mean, we know about the Tyron Smith injury, but then again, to lose their guard in that game, too, as well, against
Connor McGovern,
the Buccaneers. That's what was put the nail in the coffin in that game, and what led to stuff like that, because really it wasn't like it was a hard pressure that got to him, and he smacked arms against another guy right there where the hand was, and that's what ended up leading to that fracture. So he was getting pressured all day long, and they were never really to get into a major rhythm. And like you said, CeeDee Lamb, he didn't really become a big factor in this game at all. So, I mean, Tampa Bay on defense just really was able to wrap them up. And, the Cowboys, we said it before the game was going to start, in our preview, that Micah Parsons was going to get pressure on Tom Brady. They were going to get there and get some pressure, and they did take him down a few times.
And how did he get that pressure,
it didn't matter, though.
Off the edge.
Off the edge,
because that is what he should be all the time, full time. Because you see how disruptive a guy like Micah Parsons can be. You put him in that D-end or slash, stand-up outside linebacking role, he's going to wreak havoc in the backfield, no question. And I just, after seeing that week 1, I hope the Cowboys, defensive coordinator gets it through his head and say, hey, listen, he's way more impactful if we just send him, send him on every play on the edge. It'd just be smart that way. But you're right. I mean, you look at the O-line, too. We talked about this, how it was like a little, it's not as solid like it used to be back in the day. Usually the Cowboys have always had a tremendous offensive line. Great in pass protection, phenomenal in run blocking, and that's what kind of led to a lot of their successes. But now, I feel like the first time since I've seen the Cowboys play, when I was little, that I've never seen them not have a really good, stout offensive line. And this year, you're seeing it, how porous it is. And for them to lose a guy like Connor McGovern, one of their starters, it's even weaker. You lost Tyron Smith at your left tackle. There was some concern. They're like, oh, yeah, but we got a rookie. He can fill in nicely. Now you lose another, you lose a guard. This team is, and we said this before, depth is a big deal. And you're seeing it not just with Dak coming out, but now another starting offensive lineman down to injury for the Cowboys. And what does that mean going forward? Because I fear for Cooper Rush at this point. Cooper Rush seems like he's going to be the guy. And if you're Cooper coming into this situation, I hope the Cowboys are smart with their offense and not try to put so much pressure on him. Because running the ball, defenses now are going to attack their run game, make them one-dimensional because they are weak at O-line. So that's going to be a huge challenge for them to even get to, like, kind of stay afloat, maybe get 2 or 3 wins down the stretch while Dak is out and not fall too far behind in this division.
Right, exactly. That's what you got to do. He's got to be able to play it safe. They got to control around the run, and hopefully that'll set up some play action, things like that, and be able to beat the teams that they should be able to beat with Cooper Rush in there. But he knows the offense. He's been in that whole thing, Kellen Moore's offense for so long now, so he should be good to go. All right, we've got No Donnie in the house with us tonight.
What's going on, No Donnie? Welcome to the show, brother. He says, "Go Cardinals!"
Go Cardinals! There you go, the Cardinals fan in there. They had a rough game that week 1, but
a real rough game.
Maybe they
not
can
even just rough. That was really rough.
Yeah.
I did not expect that. I thought that I was going to witness the Cardinals from last season,
right?
Like the exploding Cardinals, the guys that had that tremendous offense with Kyler Murray running the ball and dishing it out, and running the ball with James Conner, and then defensively, I didn't see the defense. They were non-existent.
Yeah.
I can't believe my eyes when I watched some of that
part.
game. I just like, what is going on in Arizona?
Right, yeah, exactly. And with that game getting to that, Patrick Mahomes, again, people had questions like, what's he going to do without Tyreek Hill and all that stuff? Well, he spread the ball around, and they showed the stat within the game. I mean, and it wasn't just Travis Kelce. It was everybody. Everybody was getting some. And that defense, like you said, the lack thereof for the Cardinals, not getting to him, allowing him to get those guys open. Because, again, he had so much time in the pocket. I think he didn't really get pressured enough that when they're, everybody knows to try and play a zone against the Chiefs, but you get that too long in a zone, a guy gets open, and that's what was happening. You're getting your Travis Kelce's open finally in those spots. And those wide receivers kind of know where to sit, too. When they go and run those routes, they know where to find that spot in the zone and just find that cushion there and get open, too, as well. So, yeah, they really showed out strong with 44 points, but who knows? They got a tough opponent this next week, too.
I mean, that's the thing, too, that I'll say about the Cardinals' defense is I don't think they played the right strategy against the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, if you notice, if you have a halfway decent man-to-man defense, that's what you should be playing. Like, listen, there's no more Tyreek Hill, so that the speed factor's still there with Mecole Hardman.
Right.
However, he's not as explosive as Tyreek Hill. So if you got put your number 1 on Mecole that can stay with him, and everybody else play man, and if it all ends up working out to where you're able to be somewhat in the vicinity of each receiver, I think you got a good chance of stunting that offense, because that explosion that Tyreek Hill when he was there, it's no longer there. So I mean, I kind of question like the D coordinator in that game, like how he was playing against that offense. Because listen, I understand it's not an easy offense to defend. I get it. Especially in the red zone, that's when they start to get real creative and they come out with all the kind of tricky plays and what have you. You know what I mean? You don't know where the ball's going to end up. So, but you want to try to prevent letting them get that far. You know what I mean? So, I think if they played the Chiefs differently defensively, that they would have maybe had a better chance of not only just staying in that game, but maybe winning it.
Absolutely. And we're talking about the impactful injuries, too. We'll just get back to that a little bit. But another one, I think that was a major kind of thing for the 49ers was the fact that Elijah Mitchell, a lot of people thought he was going to make steps forward with this team, too, this year. And now he's out 2 months with a sprained MCL. And the fact that, too, just before in practice, before week 1, George Kittle also wasn't able to play, and it looks like he might not play this week too as well. And that's a major thing, not having a weapon like him in that offense for a young quarterback like Trey Lance to get comfortable and make some plays and have a guy you can kind of count on. Yes, they have Debo and these other guys, but again, George Kittle, a major part of that offense, and to not have him, and with the way they run this offense, I'm sure they can do it with the other backs that they have and stuff, but still, not having this guy is a major factor for them, and it kind of set him off a little bit this week, along with the weather there at
and that
Chicago.
right there, you said it right there, the weather. That's what really kind of stalled everything for the 49ers. They could not run their playbook like they wanted to. It was very sloppy of a game. Chicago was just simply more prepared to play in that style of weather. That's really what it came down to. Listen, Trey Lance in his debut, there was a lot of pressure already on him, and then on top of it, you had to deal with the inclement weather and the downpour that there was, puddles everywhere all over the football field. Yeah. It was a sloppy mess, and it was amazing, though, because that's like old school football. That's what we, where the teams would line up and just run the ball into each other nonstop and that muddiness and the rain and everything. But I'll say this, it stunted what we could possibly see from the Niners offensively. Trey Lance never really could throw the football, and I wouldn't say, it's because of the rain. No, I just think that because of how sloppy it was and because nothing was real precise like they wanted it to be for him, and it just led to a lot of mistakes. Trey Lance made a lot of mistakes, and, you got to expect that for a guy who's now taking over that starting position at quarterback for them. That's going to happen down the stretch of the season. So Trey Lance, let's see what happens this week with him. If we don't see any kind of spark from that offense this week, then it might be a little not to panic, but it might be a little time to get a little concerned with who you have leading the team.
And that's one thing, too, you got to bring up. You're like, now that you did re-sign Jimmy G to stay there, in the back, and the pressure I think that you have, under Kyle Shanahan too, that we've seen this team. We've seen them go through a bunch of injuries. We've seen the great defense that they've had. They've been in contention. They've gone to a Super Bowl just recently. If he struggles again, do these fans get upset? And maybe do you hear some of this say because the camera's going to pan on Jimmy G if something goes wrong with Trey Lance here and they're losing. They're going to look at him like, do they make the switch back? When is it going to happen? Are you going to hear it from the fans clamoring to go back to Jimmy G just to get the team rolling again and possibly make a playoff push? I mean,
I don't see it happening as soon as people would think.
You figure they got to move forward. If this is what they're doing, this is the game plan. They've moved up into the draft to do this, to get this guy. They've got to kind of put that foot forward, and they got to go all in on this.
Well, it comes down to investment. They invested a very high pick on Trey Lance. He sat behind Jimmy G for a whole season. Now it's his time to shine. Now he has to lead the team. He has to get better, and the only way he's going to develop and get better is if he's on the football field. He can't just stay behind Jimmy G forever. So now's the time to change. Listen, I don't panic. Because I know a lot of fan bases out there have hit the panic button and said, our season's over. We played 1 week of football, and we played like shit in the offense, or our defense was terrible. We're never going to win any games this way. Calm the hell down. Just relax. Take a breath, because it is only week 1. And mind you, something that I learned this week is that a lot of teams that did not play their starters in preseason games at all, you saw week 1 how rusty they are. Simply put, you look at the starters for the Raiders or the starters for Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow, he threw 4 interceptions. Derek Carr threw 3 interceptions. These guys that did not play in preseason games, they looked very rusty in week 1. And I think, don't panic. It's perfectly fine. This is what they should have worked out in preseason games, in live action in the preseason, but they didn't. Certain teams chose not to play their starters at all, and those teams, we noticed the rustiness in week 1. So give it 2 or 3 more weeks, maybe even 4 weeks, until you're really going to start to see your offenses or your defenses kind of gel together and play much better as a team. So just kind of, ease into it, because I know it's frustrating as a fan base when you watch your team and everybody wants their team to do well. Something that we didn't see. The Giants played extremely well. You know what I mean? They kind of showed out. The Titans really didn't look good at all. And they looked really, honestly, they looked too predictable than what we have seen from them last season. You look at Derrick Henry, everybody knows the ball is going to go to him, right? Well, sure enough, they ran it, but the Giants, when they played them, their defense just concentrated on him for the most part, and they stopped that momentum that normally they would get with him running the football, but there was nowhere to go. They stopped him. And then when Ryan Tannehill had to throw the ball, who does he have to throw to? he didn't have a lot of weapons anymore. You got a rookie receiver in Treylon Burks who didn't do a whole lot. You have a guy that you got from the Rams that came over, Robert Woods. I didn't really see too much of him doing
one play
much
early on.
Yeah,
that was it.
Like that offense looks in trouble, and that's got to be concerning. So like these things happen week one. I know we all want everyone to play like spot on perfect, but it doesn't happen that way. So what I would say is that week one, let's just kind of throw that in the like if your team did bad, just don't even worry about it. They're going to get better. I just think that there's still some rustiness for the teams that did not play their starters, and that's what we witnessed in week one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And another team that, again, impactful injuries that happened is even though it could be worse than what it really ends up being, but the T.J. Watt suffers a pectoral injury, opts out of surgery, and is expected to return mid-October. So, again, not doing the surgery. They did the scans again. It says that they don't really need it right now, so isn't as bad as they maybe thought once he came out of that game, and it looks horrible and you think the worst.
For sure.
So hopefully he'll be able to hit back with them. But
I'll tell you
still,
right now,
that team performed pretty well, though. Even Mitch Trubisky right there, and that was a duke-it-out game against a team that was the AFC champions last year. And really took it to him. We knew that defense was going to be tough, and they were able to get those takeaways against Joe Burrow. But Najee Harris got injured in that game, too, as well. And luckily for him, too, it's not a major one, too. So he'll be able to come right back and be in the next game here. But what a game and a showing for Mitch Trubisky to come out here in week one and kind of put his name out there and with the team, too, as well. You saw him get fired up. You get him emotional with those guys and be that leader for them. And the confidence, and he was able to do it. And this is what's crazy about the Steelers. When you even think they might be down, they still find a chance to win, find a way to win, do it. They just call the next man up, a lot like what the Patriots would do, before, the last couple seasons. But say, hey, next man up, do your job, you get it done, and look what they did here against the defending AFC champions.
Yeah, Mitch Trubisky, he brings a different element to that offense, something that the Steelers haven't had in a very long time.
Stand
a
up
guy
and down
being that mobile,
there,
you know what I mean? So that's kind of something that they're kind of creating some plays that they wouldn't normally otherwise be able to do. So they're getting more creative with that kind of offense and everything. They're kind of feeling it out right now because it is only the start of the season. But going back to T.J. Watt, that's not an injury you want to come back too early from because you can very easily tear that pec. He didn't end up tearing it, but he's going to have to take some time for that to heal. And if he comes back a little sooner than he should have, that could tearing and ending his season. So that's a very tricky injury that they're going to have to monitor and be careful with. But losing him, that is a huge deal defensively because he is seen as one of the best pass rushing defensive men in the league. He's absolutely amazing. The way he rushes a passer and disrupts the backfield. So that's a huge loss for the Steelers. I don't think that's something, nothing to slight it at all. So I'm curious to see what in fact they do defensively that is going to be a little different because TJ Watt is not there to drum up that extra little bit of rush. I know that they have Alex Highsmith, on the other side of him, who's actually doing a very good job as well. But now you got to wonder, are they not going to be able to get that much of a pass rush now? Because if teams are going to be paying more attention to Alex now, rather than having to worry about TJ, is that going to kind of stunt that pass rush that they once had? So that could change the way teams attack them, definitely. And it's going to definitely impact how the Steelers play going forward.
Yeah, definitely. And again, but for them to put up that show that they did, it was pretty amazing. And again, during that game, they end up losing Cam Hayward for a little bit too in that one, but he should be able to play this next coming week too for them. So that'll be good for them and maybe help alleviate some of this not having TJ Watt there. But like you said, that's such an impactful player for this defense and a team leader too as well is going to be a little rough for them moving forward. But again, you got to give respect to that offense, what they were able to do here still with Mitch Trubisky. And, we'll see what happens and how impactful these injuries really are. And there was a bunch throughout the league, and too. So we just tried to zero on some of the most impactful here. But again, we just heard word again today now that Keenan Allen will not play in the next game. He's out for even a few weeks, right?
Well, I know he's out for this week. It's a week-to-week thing.
Yeah, so I mean,
and then
again,
also
him being out for the Chargers is kind of a thing. But that's the Chargers thing, though. They
always get injured.
They've been getting these guys,
And Keenan Allen has never been the most healthiest receiver,
exactly.
For that team.
Like for me, it was like a ticking clock. I was wondering who was going to go first. You know what I mean?
Because even J.C. Jackson, their newly acquired
he wasn't even
star corner, was out last week. He may miss this week, too. Right now, he's seen as questionable. Also, let's talk about Jamal Adams. In that night game against the Broncos, Jamal Adams ended up getting hurt. Still haven't really heard anything, officially.
Right.
But it looks like he may be out. It could be that serious to the point where he might be out of the season already.
Right.
In week 1. So, still got to monitor that and get a final word on that, because as we get into maybe Thursday or Friday is definitely going to be telling what's going to happen. But Thursday, I would expect tomorrow we get some kind of news about his status.
Yeah, absolutely. And all we heard from Pete Carroll was that it looks like a major quad injury. So we'll see. We'll see if it's – they always say that, too, afterwards, because that looks the worst. But, yeah, after doctors are able to check it out, get scans done, then we'll see. But, again, injuries all over the board for a lot of teams and how impactful they could be. We'll see in this crazy season. And, Joe, it was a crazy week 1. We're excited to talk about all these games here coming up. But first, I'm going to tell you about our friends at Mohawk Honda. And, Joe – I talk about the inventory that they have, the super duper lot, the chance to get you the car that you want, the one that you deserve, the payments you want, trade in your vehicle, all that good stuff. But you know what? I had to get my inspection done this week. At the beginning of the month, get it done, make sure get it taken care of.
Yeah.
I'm right there in Freeman's Bridge Road. I went online on my phone. I didn't call anybody. I went to just the spot. What do you want? They have the person that helped you, whatever, the virtual person. I'm just like, I need to come in for service. Boom, service, yeah. Do you want to see any technician you want? You have all these technicians or anyone you want? Anyone I want. Okay, next available date is this one. What do you need to get done? Just inspection. Okay, cool. This time good for you? Yes. Boom, that's good. All right, you're all set. Boom, just like that. And then they sent me a nice reminder, too. Oh, by the way, it's coming up. Can't wait to see you. And in the service there that day when I went there too, Peter, he was the man, Peter Perry. Shout out to Peter Perry. He took care of me. He gave me his number so I could text him back and forth anything I need. Hey, what's going on in the car? He gave me the information about it, the price, and even stuff down in the future that I might need done. And he gave me a grade about it. Yeah, absolutely. He said, we ain't going to charge you now, stuff like that. You passed inspection, but further down the line, maybe your next oil change, you might want to get these done, your brakes or your tires and stuff. And it was really amazing. Shout out to Mohawk Honda, where they go out of their way to please you. So that's just something about their service too as well, Joe.
They really please Jimmy.
They do. I really enjoy that. Mohawk Honda's right there. And I can walk there from my work too. I drop my car there and walk. But even if not, they have a concierge service there. They'll drive you back. So they'll drive you wherever you need to go, Joe. So
yeah, would you expect anything less?
No, absolutely not from Mohawk Honda. All right, Joe. So we talked a little bit about some of the games, the sleeper games that are out there, some sleepy starts that we like to call it. But let's get into some of these revenge games. We were just bringing it up, the fact the Monday night game with the Broncos and the Seahawks. Let's just jump right into that one then. Might as well, it's the freshest. What did you think about this? Russell Wilson coming back to the Seattle Seahawks here, the 12th man, and getting booed for one, even two. And he had the multiple jerseys that had the names on it, fraud and everything else, and blah, blah. And no love for him in that game. And how about the Seahawks really, feeding off that crowd and really pumped up and playing hard against this team in order enough even to get the win?
I mean, let's just say, first off, the 12th man, come on, bro. Really, you're going to boo a guy that won you championship, who a guy that's had so much success for that organization, a guy that's literally carried your team at times, and you're going to boo him when he returns? Yes, I understand he's wearing a different jersey, but come on, the stuff that he did for the organization, the fan bases, the community in Seattle. I mean, wow, the utter disrespect for Russell Wilson.
And he never
is
said anything
ridiculous.
bad about the fans ever either. It was like he had problems with the organization altogether. It was between them. Nothing about the fans.
I mean, it's ridiculous, really. So like that's one thing that I'll say about all that. I disagree with how Seattle. I won't say all fans, but in Seattle, but the majority, that you could just definitely hear a lot of the boos. And then let's talk about Seattle. You know, Seattle kind of astonished me when I'm watching that game. I'm like, wow. They got a lot of, and I've said this before in the past. I said that Seattle, the organization of the Seattle Seahawks, they do a tremendous job of finding hidden talent, like young talent out of nowhere, whether it be an undrafted free agent. Somehow they scoop these guys up, and they, next thing you know, they're starting at cornerback or playing on the defensive line. They did a great job obtaining very young talent and then putting them on the football field and them all performing extremely well. You look at that D-line now with Shelby Harris anchoring the middle of it and two speedy young DNs that they have on the outside. I mean, there's a lot to like if you're a Seattle fan. So
what about Nwosu there, the guy that D tackled there? He played amazing, lights out.
Nwosu was the D end. They had him on the D end. He was one of those young guys that were just after it every single play. But I would say the middle linebacker Brooks taking over for Bobby Wagner. He looks like it got better. I mean, you're seeing the burst and the speed that he brings sideline to sideline as a linebacker, tremendous. And then on the back end, they still got Quandre Diggs as at safety, which is kind of helping anchoring down that secondary. A lot of young up-and-coming talent, a lot of guys that were all over the football field and playing extremely well. And then offensively, I got to give props to Geno Smith. I've been dogging him this whole offseason and saying, wow, I can't wait to see the 4 picks he throws or the 5 or turning the ball over 5 times. But, man, I was so wrong. I really did. I was all over him in a negative way. But that offense, I did not see the running game that we normally see from them. Like Rashad Penny, don't get me wrong, he did his thing. But like we don't see a balanced offense usually. We saw a balanced Seattle offense, not so run heavy, and they don't even have the rookie, Kenneth Walker yet. So he was out last week. So maybe he'll come back this week so we can see some of him. But Will Dissly, we saw an appearance once again, catching the football, and they were using like 3 different tight ends.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was crazy.
Which is
they were using all 3 tight ends, right?
A very new type of offense for Seattle because normally they just wrote the tight end off. You go there to die. Noah Fant got a couple of catches, and then there was I can't remember the other kid, the kid with the long hair.
Cody Parkinson?
Yeah, Parkinson. That guy was balling out too. So I mean, there's a lot to like with this new revamped type of offense that they have, but I will say this. I'm not going to give too much credit to Geno just yet. I will give him credit for that game. He definitely did his thing. But there was definitely some penalties that went into the favor of Seattle as they were driving. There was some should have been sack moments, but didn't. He slipped out somehow. That I think with a better defense, I think that this could be a very different story that we're telling right now. So I would like to temper my expectations for Seattle right now and just say, let's see what they can do next week. Because who they play? They play the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, the 49ers. Yeah.
That to me is going to be a better test because unlike the Broncos, which I have not been in favor of crowning their defense, saying it's going to be amazing still. We talked about it on the show. Vic Fangio no longer there running that defense. It's going to be different. And what did we see? We saw a lot of mistakes being made by that defense and not making very many plays. So let's see what they can do against a 49er defense that's been together, that is very kind of intense and aggressive style of a defense, and see if they can handle that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, again, one thing you didn't really see was like a big day from Tyler Lockett or DK and stuff. It was a lot of those tight ends getting those big plays in wide open spots, too, and be able to get down there. So some broken coverage here and there and finding the spots. And it was kind of funny because, again, a little different from what you're usually seeing. And it's funny how that happens when you have a guy like Russell Wilson right there. begging for different changes the way they run the offense, and it seems like once he leaves, they change it up and then they do it. It's almost like the spider right in front of his face. You know what I'm saying? And that defense, though, like you said, played up to par. Barton, too, as well, getting in it, making some big hits, too.
And he was
pressuring Russell Wilson, and he seemed a little flustered at times. But what really killed them, though, again, the turnovers, because they were even, like you said, it wasn't perfect because Seattle would turn the ball over. Yeah, DK ended up fumbling on one of those, I think it was, too. And they got it back, and they drove down to the goal line, and multiple fumbles at the goal line is what killed the Denver Broncos. But then again, you still have that chance with roughly a minute left over. They're pressing, and they make it down. What sucks is that one penalty, I think it was, or they got tackled. He got tackled further back and knocked them back. And it goes down to that 4th and 5. But how do you not trust Russell Wilson, the guy who you just acquired, that you traded all those picks for, to say, this is our guy. He's going to get this first down for it. 5 yards. And you know what? Seattle was giving those. They were giving those halfback just, flat routes and everything wide open to them all day. That's all they had to really do. Just dish it off and get your 5 yards and be done and drive the ball down to seconds. And you even had that timeout. Instead, they killed the clock down there. They're sitting there. I watched the Manning cast, by the way. Did you watch that one?
No, I don't watch that shit.
Dude, I thought it was great. I get better. I can't watch Joe Buck and Joe and
I want to watch the game. I want to watch the game.
Watch the game.
I don't want to. I don't want to listen to their antics and everything. I just want to watch the game.
Anyways, you're watching it happen, and Peyton's like, timeout. He's like, what are they doing? And he's like, and then he's like, oh man, they're waiting for it, and then they call the timeout, and then he was in shock that they bring out the kicking team. So was I. How about you in that moment?
I was not shocked because you brought out a kicker that can kick that. And if you watch, it was a 64-yard field goal. He's done that before. And
that would have been his longest. He has never done a 64 before.
He's done it before in practice. All the time.
Yeah.
And
practice
especially in Denver.
Talk about a game.
But this is a guy that can reach it. And when you saw him kick that, it was just an accuracy thing. It wasn't a distance thing. He was going to easily make it both times. Even when they called the timeout.
He had a distance.
So it's like for it to be a 64-yard field goal, and everyone's going to say, "Oh, well, you shouldn't have done that. You should have gave it to Russell Wilson." Listen, I can agree both ways because. You could have put it on Russell Wilson's back, absolutely, and try to get the 4th and 5. And then if you don't get it, he's going to be hammered because they're like, oh, you should have gave your kicker a chance because he has the leg to do it. And if the kicker makes that field goal, we're not even talking about this. We're saying, oh, my God, the Broncos stunned the Seattle Seahawks. That's what we'll be talking about. So it can go either way. To me, it bothers me when a situation like that can go either way no matter what you choose to do. And it didn't go your way that time, so now everybody's going to jump on you and say, oh, well, you should have did this, you should have did that. Well, guess what? The kicker just missed it. It's that simple. A kicker can miss it even closer than that. We've seen it week one.
We saw it a few times.
Rodrigo Blankenship lost his job because of week one missed field goals, and they were shorter than that.
Yep.
So how about we just say this? How about, okay, he didn't get the kick, he didn't make the kick, and you can agree or disagree whatever way you want, but either way, it was the right call. Either way, because they knew they had confidence in him to make it because he does have the leg, and I don't think for 1 second that they didn't have confidence in Russell Wilson to try to get that first down and keep it going. So I would say that I think it's being overblown.
It's different though, because
I think it's being overblown.
No, I hear you, and you're going to overblow it because he's even changed his mind though, Joe, about it. How about that? Within the press conference, right directly after, he's like, "Oh, I still would have done it," but now it was Tuesday. Yesterday, he's like, "Oh, now I had more time to think about it."
Hindsight's 20/20, bro.
Direction, but it's different when you look at it because during that play, you had over a minute. You had a lot of time, and that's what I think plays into it, is how much time they even had to try and do some more with it just to try and get a little closer. Yep. And the fact that right at that moment, Russell Wilson was commanding the offense and rushed everybody to the line. Yeah. So it looked like he was going to try to get them on a moment where they were going to be off.
For sure.
And Hackett pulls in and said, no, we're going to end up doing this.
Yep.
It kind of threw it off, and that's what you kind of pose as a question then. Do you not trust Russell Wilson? You should, and it maybe shouldn't be a question of that, but let him do his thing. He wanted to bring everybody up and make it a quick, hurry-up offense and get the first down, and you told him no. And then you said, I trust my kicker in doing this at this moment at 4th and 5 with a minute left, and you ran it down to 20 seconds. Why not trust Russell Wilson to get that momentum and get that first down for you? And that says a lot. As a first-year coach, we talked about it with the Giants real quick, and we'll get that to a little longer here. The impact that it makes. Going for it on that 4th down, getting the first down, trusting Russell Wilson, trusting your offense to get it done with a new head coach. Now they might even question, like, Russ was going to bring it in. We were all going for it. You told us to wait, and then we called a timeout, and then we're kicking it, from a 64-yarder. I know you can do them in practice and stuff like that too. But, I mean, when you had time to get some more yardage, to get a little closer, why risk it? And that could weigh on those, maybe the locker room.
I would say this. It's a risk either way. It's 4th down. It's 4th and 5. It's not like it's 4th and 2, 4th and 1. It's 4th and 5. And it's not a guarantee at all.
No, it's not.
So I would say this. I don't think there was a right or wrong decision for him.
Right.
I understand the time thing, and that's what everyone's going to point to is like, oh, well, they had a minute left, so why not give it a shot to Russell Wilson? So, okay, let's do that. Let's say this happened. Let's say, okay, you got a minute on the clock. Hurry up. Yep, we're going to run the next play. Go ahead, Russ. You got this. I want you to do jet sweep R32 XY post Z. Like, that's the play we're going to do. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Let's go. He does the calls right. Hike, and he does it, and he overthrows the receiver. That's it. End of the game. I still think people are going to be just as mad about it. I still think people are going to be like, oh, well, you were close enough to kick a field goal, so you could have took the time, took a timeout, relaxed, have your kicker out there, and try to win the game for it. So either way, I feel like no matter what Nathaniel Hackett decided, I feel like people were going to be on him regardless. Because even if you still had Russell out there and you didn't, execute and get that first down, I still think he would have been hammered.
Yeah, and what it really comes down to when you look at those games, and I look at these games like this too as well, and when somebody might even say, oh, man, if we only did this, we would have had it.
Right.
I always look back to and look at it too as well and say, well, you didn't execute on those turnovers. You got the turnovers, you got to the goal line, and you didn't do it. So if you did that, you would have never been in that situation. They would have been up by 2 scores.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, that's why we play the game.
There you go. And there you go. So there he is for the Broncos game and one of the revenge games.
Yes.
How about the revenge game with the Cleveland Browns and going to Carolina? And I thought Baker Mayfield and company, especially having Jacoby Brissett in there, we know about Nick Chubb. We knew he was going to be eaten. I knew he was going to get his stuff here. But that Cleveland defense really got to Baker Mayfield and stuff, and they weren't able to get it rolling here. And they duked it out back and forth, back and forth. They came back, got this go-ahead score, but left him with enough time to get that field goal at the end and just crush his hopes and dreams on down to getting that revenge game.
This was a very black and blue, very physical type of game because, the Cleveland Browns, they wanted to win and beat Baker because they know Baker's been talking a lot of shit leading up to this week. And then Baker and the Panthers, his new teammates, they wanted to win it so badly for him as well. So it just created this very physical game, like punch in the mouth, left and right. It was like a heavyweight bout going on. And for Baker to not come out the winner, because to be honest with you, the Panthers had it won. And that last drive that you allude to, that's on the defense. The defense has got to make the stop, has got to keep them out of the range. Even if they weren't able to stop them, but keep them like only kind of like slowly getting down the field. Nothing big, no big chunk plays or anything, and keep chewing that clock out. Maybe the clock expires before they can even get into field goal range. That's really what their job was, and they just didn't get it done defensively. So the Panthers, they had them on the ropes. I mean, they had the Browns on the ropes, and they just couldn't put the final nail in the coffin.
Yep, just a little too late. And
but I will say this. Cleveland Browns, with Jacoby Brissett leading that team, he didn't have a spectacular game, but with the weapons that they have and with him as a veteran, they were able to stay in the fight and do just enough to have a chance to win. And that's all you can ask from them.
Right.
Panthers, I still think they're one of these, sleeper type young teams. They have a good defense. We saw some flash plays on offense and defense. I still have a lot of confidence in them as well.
Yeah. And the same thing again here too with them. Again, the Cleveland executed the game plan that they wanted to do, and this is all they asked of Jacoby Brissett. Just don't turn the ball over, make big mistakes that are impactful to have us lose the game. And when you've got those running backs like there too, just let them run and do their thing, and that's what they did. They played their game plan, and like I said, that defense is really great too, and they only got better this year. So really put it to them. That was a great game coming down to the wire. We had a few of them like that. What other? Do we have any other revenge games that are out here? Again, I'm trying to think if there's somebody else that might have played with somebody. But
let me take a look back at the last week.
I don't think so.
I've already fast forwarded.
I think that was probably. Yeah, I know we already went through a bunch, but no, I think that was it. If you wanted to bring up like the Jacksonville Washington one, it wasn't really like a revenge game or something. But we got to see Doug Peterson and. There was a time with Jacksonville, too, that I thought they really had this. They started out with a momentum here, and I thought they maybe could have got the Washington Commanders here. You know, Doug Peterson knows Carson Wentz, but Carson Wentz stood up with this team, the Washington Commanders, and we've had a few different sightings here. You know, Curtis Samuel scored a touchdown. I mean, welcome back, Curtis Samuel here.
He went off in that game. And also, Jahan Dotson, the rookie, got a touchdown as well. Like, you know, this is why we kind of – listen – as much as we don't like Carson Wentz, you know, there are moments that he has. If you give him time, he can throw the football. So guys like Jahan Dotson, finally they have weapons all over, right? Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. It seems like they got a nice offense, a halfway decent offensive line, and maybe they could do some things that we're going to end up being surprised about.
Yeah, I think that's it for actual revenge.
This game I have to bring up because not only was it another really tough fought game all the way through it, and it ended up in a tie. The Texans and the Colts. That was a tremendous game, and I'll tell you right now, you know, when last week when we were talking about dark horse teams, and I brought up the Texans, it's because I love their offense. I think they're going to be so underrated, and we've seen it against the Colts, a team that we see winning the division. They were able to not only stay with, but even have a chance to win this game. So to end up in a tie is just not only it doesn't really happen that often, but man, oh man, does that have to say something about this team and what they may be able to be to achieve this year? Yeah,
and you talk about dark horse just team altogether, but again, Davis Mills has kind of been that guy that if you talk around circles, like even our buddies and friends and even know-it-alls out there. A lot of people I kind of like this Davis Mills guys and stuff like that. No, everybody out there like in the other expert realm
the big
would
market.
Give him any kind of respect at all. But we were all kind of like, I don't know, he did some things last year and he looks pretty good. And he's convinced Lovie Smith and those guys that say, hey, this guy can be our guy. We're not going to go out and get another guy here. This is our guy. They showed it in the draft when they had opportunities to get quarterbacks or whatever, and they went defense. So he looked really good. And look at O.J. Howard, who went around from different teams, and he comes out. Not a lot. He's got like 30 yards, 2 touchdowns. Fantasy people, they probably wrote him off. Like, just sitting there. Nobody drafted him.
What the heck is happening?
But, again, they shock people, you know what I mean? And a team, like you said, that, you know, had higher expectations, division, but even they thought they had their quarterback, or they think they do, to move forward, which they probably do. But we're talking about sleepy starts. This is one of those teams. Not in the running game. This is what's crazy about it. When Jonathan Taylor can go off like he did and stuff like that, you think it's going to be a win. But Matt Ryan, again, a little off in the beginning. You know, gets an interception and just needs to kind of, I think, move together with this offense a little better. Again, you talk about guys that didn't get to play so much in the offseason and the preseason. This is what you kind of saw in this game, I think, and they'll just work the bugs out.
Right.
And they met a team that they probably didn't expect was going to be tight. They probably thought this is an extended preseason game, and they got punched in the mouth.
Quite simply, that's exactly what happened. And a guy like Davis Mills, you know, the funny thing about him is if he came out in this year's draft, no doubt about it, he would have been the number 1 quarterback taken.
Right.
Now, and the only reason why he ended up being a 3rd-round pick is because in college he just couldn't stay healthy at all.
Yeah,
like that was the big knock on him. Is like he's always injury ridden. He's never going to stay healthy in the NFL, and he's surprising a lot of the critics right now, saying, "Look he's still playing. He's not injured at all. He's healthy. He's out there doing his thing." And you know, it wasn't a question of him being able to make all the throws or being accurate or making the right decisions. That he had all that. It was just the injury bug they were worried about.
Right,
So,
and it goes to show you even those Madden experts, they rate him like a 50.
Stupid.
You know what I mean? And then some of these other rookies that came out that aren't even starting in games,
No.
they're a lot higher. So isn't that funny?
one thing that I'll say, too, is I want to say about that Giants-Titans game.
Yeah, that's another
Is Ryan Tannehill did not look very good.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a spark in a quarterback, I forgot his name already. The rookie there. Malik, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to, I think if you're going to let it go a couple weeks, and if you're still struggling, if you're still losing games, what's the sense of holding on to that hope of Ryan Tannehill turning the switch on and helping your team win games to get back in the hunt? Mm-hmm. I think you might have to make that switch sooner rather than later with Malik, because we saw in preseason, he played a lot of preseason games. He had quite the spark, a lot of big time playmaker type of plays where he would use his legs and use his arm at the same time, and to kind of get some plays moving and get this team and this offense going. So I would watch out the next 3 to 4 weeks if Tannehill and this offense alone is still struggling, and maybe even if they're 0 or say they're 1-3 or something, maybe it might be time to make that switch.
Right, and you talk about things about Ryan Tannehill being Ryan Tannehill. Sometimes he breaks off those runs and gets it going with his athleticism, and he didn't really do that in this game. Wasn't really able to, because you know what? One thing different about this team, I mean, yes, their defense was pretty good with, Patrick Graham back there, but with Wink Martindale, the blitzes that they're doing, giving him that pressure, it was able to even eliminate some of the run. When you're able to shut down Derrick Henry a bit here and contain him, I mean, look at the hit that Tay Crowder had on him on the side, actually lifted him off the ground for once. It was like, people were like, that can happen sometimes, amazing.
He's not
but
Superman.
Able to do that, and then you're able then to lay it on Ryan Tannehill's shoulders and create some pressure on him. And also, who is he able to go to? You know what I'm saying? He wasn't able to get it out to. He doesn't have that top guy in there anymore. So he, Treylon Burks was able to get one catch, I think.
Robert Woods didn't get much anything.
No, he got one early, and it was their third string wide receiver there. Whatchamacallit? Oh no, maybe even the backup running back here for them too was getting a lot of passes on wheel routes and stuff like that. So I mean, when you're looking at a check down to those guys being your only options, and even sometimes those guys were dropping the passes too half the time, and that's what kills an offense too. Trust me, I know. I'm a Giants fan. I see drop passes all the time. Kenny Golladay, one catch early on in the game, didn't see him again.
Yeah, that's it.
And it was just a hitch route.
Good luck trying to trade him.
Right. Well, hey, you're done. You're locked in. But, I mean, again, defense able to do that to him. But let's take a look at the offense, though, for the Giants, too. Saquon Barkley able to run and get some good runs. And one thing I noticed differently about him, I mean, he's always kind of been, his stature and stuff that he is. He's not doing anything drastically different. The offensive line, I think, is a little better. But I've noticed when there's nothing around, he's not doing so much stuttering and kind of juking to try and think about what he might do to break something off. He looks, I ain't get nothing, lower the shoulders and just chug forward and get those 2 or 3 yards. And he wasn't doing that a couple of years ago in last year. He was kind of just wanted to kind of break off that big thing instead of saying, it's just me versus this guy. No, I'm just going to run through him and get a couple of yards. And that's what I thought was a big factor here. And he ran hard in this game, and a big factor for this win.
I mean, I would just say the health factor for him, that's why to you it might look like something different that he's doing. But I think it's because
his health there is, but it is something different.
But that's
before
what
he wasn't doing that.
But that's what I'm saying, because now that he knows he's healthy, he knows he doesn't have to. He's not concerned about the injury. He can be that physical guy. He can go and take on a tackle or whatever. And that's why I think of course, you're not going to see it in 2 years ago or 3 years. It's because I think back even then, that far, he still wasn't 100%, and he was worried about getting injured again, and because that's the biggest hurdle to get over for an athlete is after you have a severe injury is mentally getting over that injury, not physically. Physically could be 110% ready to go, but mentally to get over that injury and not think about it at all and just go 100%, not have to, hold back, in other words. So I mean, I think that's what you're starting to see, the Saquon of his rookie year. You know what I mean? A guy that's not worried about anybody kind of re-injuring him or anything. He's just going.
Right, and that's what I think was able to give them success on offense. And Daniel Jones, even though he did throw that one interception that was there, I'll get to that in a second. But overall, he was being pretty smart with the ball. Didn't look terrible. Again, got the pressure on the backside of him to where he got the strip fumble again. But again, I mean, that's going to happen when those guys get such an angle on that outside with that pass rush, with that Tennessee defense, what they were doing. So you're going to get a few of those. The one interception, again, he looked at that first read, it's to Saquon, and he's like, I see it. I'm already committed. I'm going to do it anyways. And that's the one problem with Daniel Jones that he'll do sometimes. He's like, the play's got to go to this guy. I'm not even looking at it. I'm just going to do it anyways and see what happens. And it's like, you can't do that. One time he went off script was that one play to Sterling Shepard that, again, 9 times, they even said it in the broadcast, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't really happen that way. But what Sterling Shepard was able to do with his route, but then also the defender looking down at the next guy in, he made that break in, and that just set him off. That got a little bit of separation from Sterling Shepard to where Shep was able to get that bomb over the top for that big deep play, and that's really gave them the momentum to move forward in that game. Well, how about the Brian Daboll going for 2 there? What was your opinion on that? Were you thinking that at that time?
Again, it's the same situation again. It's either do or die. There's no wrong decision. There isn't. Yeah. Like you either go for the win or maybe go into a tie. So he went for the win. He's like, listen, we're not seen as one of these teams that are going to mow over anybody. We're not even expected to win games. So why the hell not? Let's just go for the win. Let's go for 2, and if we get it, boom, we're gonna be a big time story. This time Monday. So let's just do it. Let's go. No one's expecting us to win anyway, so why not?
Yeah. So I mean that game was a great game. Another great game that was really close, and another team that played hard, and maybe a team that just because they haven't all been together, but I think they should have been able to still get this offense going. The Philadelphia Eagles in Detroit. Detroit really playing hard, coming off of hard knocks in the preseason here. Dan Campbell's second year, got the group behind him. They have some other additions here, too, as well to that team. Aiden Hutchinson on the defensive line. They were getting so much pressure here on the Eagles. But early on in the Eagles' offense, it seemed like, and I noticed it too, if you looked at Jalen Hurts, he was wearing the flak jacket this year. I don't think he wore that this year. It seemed like he had a little more padding, like they're expecting him to do some more designed runs just for him this year and wanting to keep him healthy. And that's what they did a lot in that first half. They're really not getting Miles Sanders, Boston Scott involved with a whole lot. And they passed a lot of passing plays. And then when there was nothing there, he would take off running. But Detroit playing hard, they had him. And just, again, another thing when I talk about drop passes, that I feel bad for Jared Goff because a lot of those passes that there were missed opportunities, they could have tore the roof off of this thing. And they had an opportunity in the second half, too, to come back in this game, but just couldn't get it done. It's a tough loss for the Lions, but really a good showing.
Yeah, I mean, in most of the game, they were kind of playing from behind because the Eagles kind of took a big jump, a head start on them.
Yeah.
And their offense looked really well. The Eagles' offense looked really good. It looked kind of like what we were expecting from a revamped offense, especially acquiring A.J. Brown to team him up with Devonta Smith. And then, Dallas Goedert in the offensive line is healthy. Like, everybody was back together again with improvement. So we saw from the Eagles a team that can put up points, but I would also say that the Lions kind of they showed flashes, especially on defense, of becoming that kind of that very tenacious and physical group that Dan Campbell wants in that Lion team. But I would also say too is offensively for the Lions and defensively for the Eagles looked. They didn't look this. Don't get me wrong. They had a couple turnovers and they made some big plays, but they let the Lions offense kind of come back slowly and sneakily until they were right there. Could have pulled off a major upset. And that's got to beg the question too. Like, is the Eagles defense really legit, or is this just something like a flash in the pan? Like, they can make turnovers happen once in a while, but they're not going to really be able to stop really good offenses. So you look at the Lions and how that can-do mentality that they have. We saw that last season of them being way more impressive than we anticipated last year. And now with more talent, with some upgrades at different spots on this team, we expect them to take that next step up, to maybe be a 500 team, to maybe even be above 500 a little bit in a sense by the end of the season. So we saw there was a very good showing for the Lions in week 1, not being rusty, very, very, fundamental football, very physical type of football for them. And that's kind of what held them in that race against the Eagles.
Absolutely. And getting that running game going, something that the Lions really haven't done when they even had Matthew Stafford. They had multiple running backs when they get them in there, but really not establish a good run game. And I think they did in this game. And one guy that you brought up last week, again, not a dark horse, but you said, hey, watch out for this kid. And that was Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I thought he played really well in this game as well. Yeah,
and also like DeAndre Swift is really impressing people. I would say he's not someone to overlook. He can definitely do some damage to your defense. So teams are going to keep close eye on those type of guys. And DJ Chark had a good game too. He had a touchdown catch and everything as well. So this team looks really good. It looks really well-rounded. And I'm curious to see what they can do this upcoming week. They're playing, let's see. Where are they playing? Or they have a bye week. Oh, no, Detroit against Washington.
Yeah, I should have known that.
So that's something that's going to be fun to watch because then you're going to see two teams that were right there, that are close in the games that they played respectively, that now they're going to duke it out against each other. So let's see what either one can do. And as far as the Eagles go, I think it's what we expect. We expected them to win, but it did not turn out the way we thought it was going to be.
It could have been. Yeah, exactly. One other team, I think, again, when you talk about sleepy starts, you got to look at the Green Bay Packers here. And, I guess in hindsight, when you look at it, the injuries that they had even just coming into the game, but still, I think you got to trust Aaron Rodgers. You think he can get it done here? Minnesota, though, played them, just knocked their blocks off, and maybe it's the second consecutive year here with the Packers coming out just soft, not being prepared for week 1 like they did last year against the Saints. Got shelled, and the same thing here with the Minnesota Vikings. Just they seem like defensively weren't ready at all, and offensively they could have had some things done. But those wide receivers, and Aaron Rodgers talking about it in the preseason about they're just missing assignments to drop the confusion. You saw a little bit of what he was talking about in that game, and that was kind of the killer for them.
Yeah, I think these type of wrinkles are going to get ironed out. I don't think it's anything to lose your minds over. And you got to remember, week 1. He didn't have his starting tackles. Neither one of them. David Bakhtiari was out. On the other side at right tackle, Elton Jenkins was out. Those are 2 humongous losses. Not just little. Those are 2 big losses. And he didn't have his number 1 wideout in Allen Lazard. So that was another big blow for him because that is going to be the guy that he's going to go to quite often because he trusts him. He knows what he's capable of and wants to feed him the football. So with those 3 losses, I would say that's a big reason why this offense kind of tripped over itself in week 1. We noted, listen, this is why when you have even the greatest of quarterbacks, even when you have a really elite type of quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, it's not just him that makes the team. It's a team game. So it's not just one player that's going to carry your team. So this proves it more than anything. You need your receivers. You need your offensive linemen. And that's how I think you're going to notice a big-time change this week because David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins returned to practice as of today in limited fashion. So it looks like they're trending towards starting this upcoming week. And also Allen Lazard is also practicing as well. So that's great news for Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. I think that you're going to see a difference in the team big time in week 2.
All right, finally for sleepy starts, you got to bring up Thursday's game here. The Rams just did not look ready at all. And the Bills, I mean, was it really that just the Bills are that much better than the Rams? And just the AFC I mean, look what the Kansas City Chiefs did to the Cardinals. I mean, is it just that the AFC is such a powerhouse to the NFC, or is it really that just weren't ready, weren't prepared to face this Buffalo team who they were running on all cylinders, everything. Absolutely everything. And they even had opportunities with turnovers. They couldn't turn it into more points, but then coughed it back up again with their turnovers. And, a couple of interceptions by Josh, Allen. One wasn't his fault. One obviously was, but then the fumble. But still put the gas, the pedal to the metal here, foot on the gas, like a Patriots team used to do. And this is how they played, and they really stomped the crap out of the Rams here.
Yeah, I will say this. As far as the Arizona game goes, I think that was more about Arizona not playing well versus the Chiefs overpowering them. But for the Buffalo game, I don't think it's just because Buffalo's that much better than the Rams. I do think that obviously Buffalo outplayed them. But I would say that the Bills have better weapons. I mean, when you look at Stephon Diggs, listen, it was kind of pitch. It was kind of pitch and catch. He went, Jalen Ramsey lined up and followed him no matter where he went and was trying to lock him down, but couldn't because it wasn't the speed that was hurting him. Yep. It was route running. Yep. Diggs is one of the best route runners in this league, and he showed it in primetime fashion against so-called best corner in the league, Jalen Ramsey, which I don't agree with that statement, but a lot of people do. And if that's the case, you saw him get shown up in prime time. Yep. Diggs was looking at him every time he caught the ball, just staring at him, grilling him, saying, "Yep, I did that to you. Hey, I'm going to do it again."
And he won the hand-checking battles, I think, too. When they were getting physical with each other, he won the upside of every one of those, too, I think.
I mean, so when I'm comparing these two teams, I'll say this. I don't think Sean McVay, and don't get me wrong, I still think he's a very good offensive-minded coach, but when you go out and you spend the money that you spent to get Allen Robinson and you only throw the ball to him like a couple times and he caught one, what are you doing? Like you need to spread the ball around. Tyler Higbee didn't get enough love. Allen Robinson was almost non-existent the whole game. And then you were like just Stafford and the plays that were being called. It seemed like it was just Stafford and Kupp, Stafford and Kupp, Stafford and Kupp.
Or
and if Kupp
Henderson,
wasn't, and if Kupp wasn't open, then it was one of your running backs or something that you had to utilize. So I question Week 1's offensive play calling for the Rams. I think they'll be better as we keep watching them week to week. But and then defensively, it's got to be a little bit of concern there. Listen, everybody was pointing the finger at Von Miller switching teams to Buffalo and like, oh, that's the reason. Because Von left, the Rams defense doesn't have a pass rush. I don't think that's the reason. Don't get me wrong, Von Miller's really good at what he does, but this defense has lost more than just Von Miller. They lost a corner, they lost a safety, they lost a linebacker. They lost more than people are saying that they lost.
Yeah, and then just to bring in like a Bobby Wagner and that's the thing. It's not. I don't think the fact that they lost him and he moved to sides. It's Buffalo's defense was like rated number 1 last year, anyways, and then the addition of Von Miller on top of things, and wherever they wanted to set him, they just kept putting it on the weak side wherever that guy was lined up. What was that guy? Note Bomb or something like that? Note Boom. He was getting tore up, man, and he was just eating all day long.
And let's take it a step further, because there's a guy by the name of Gregory Russo who did not really play hardly at all last year as a rookie, and I'm curious to see what he did. He had a hell of a game as well. Ed Oliver, what can you say about him? Yeah. One of the best D tackles in football. Sorry, he is.
Yeah, but even he didn't play a lot because he got injured in that game and sat out for a little bit. But that's how deep this team is. And the fact that they were able to play, even without Tre'Davious White, too. You think about that. He wasn't even playing. So to go in there, play a team of that caliber, get the win, and really put a good showing on them just looks good for the team and gives you a lot of momentum moving forward into the next week.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I mean, I really like – we both like the Bills coming into this season. We think because of the improvements that they made on top of what they already have roster-wise, they have to be the favorites to possibly be the number 1 seed in the AFC. Possibly. Because they're right there in the running for sure.
Absolutely. Joe, let's tell everybody about some of your favorites here in Johnstone Supply.
Johnstone Supply, we're running out of ideas for your ads.
We are.
Could you please send us new reads because it is no longer summer. We're going into fall.
It's going to be 60, I think, tomorrow.
Let's turn the page. Let's just turn the page now officially. We're going into fall. Guess what? If you need heating equipment, if you have any questions about possibly heating your apartment or house or anything, what have you, call these guys up. Johnstone Supply. They're in Troy, New York. They have manufacturers of Goodman, Fujitsu, Westinghouse at all great prices. You can call them at 518-272-5922. They are locally here, Troy, New York. If you need help, please call them. You can call Kevin, James, or Bird. They can help you answer all your questions that you have. They are located at 2600 6th Avenue in Troy, New York. Get your heating systems today. It's time to get ready. Just like the preseason for football, you got to get ready for the winter. Let's go.
Absolutely. And Johnstone, maybe we got to stop down there in 4th Avenue in Troy there and be like, yo.
6th
Avenue.
There we go.
I'll get there. I know Troy. I just know the roads. I just don't know the names of them. A lot of one-way streets there. So I think if you keep taking one way and go around in circle, you'll make it back to where you need to go. By the way, shout out to Greg Schneider in the house.
What's going on, Greg? Welcome to the show.
I haven't seen him in a while out here. Here he goes. Bills fan. Bills added all D-line over the last offseason. Added Miller, Lawson, D. Jones from Titans, and Jones, I think he says right there. So very deep on the D-line and a quarterback that's a beast. And that's the thing. You see Josh Allen in that game getting super hyped and a stiff arm, just throwing his body out there. But even in that game for them, I was almost like looking with the lead even that they had. I was ready for them to just take him out and put somebody else in, Matt Barkley or somebody like that to play. And he kept running hard. And you're watching. They had him up in the air, and they're like wishboning his legs. I was fearing for Bills fans. I'm like, if I see my quarterback up like that and they're tearing at him, trying to tear a limb off, I don't like that.
He is not.
I mean, yes, he's a big
body
he's built. A guy. But still, the body will wear down too with big guys. You see it in the NBA. You see it with even Big Ben. It happened with him.
We're not at that point in his career.
I know. You just don't want it to end up
he's young
earlier than it should.
I mean, he's way
especially when you had a big
physical.
lead. I'm just saying, you had
he's
a big
physical.
lead.
I would not worry about it.
You could have just sat on it a little bit.
No,
but
there's no sitting in football.
He's not that type of guy, though. You put the foot on the gas. He's not that type of guy, and he got in everybody's face. Didn't matter how big you were or not. He was getting in a big guy's face. It didn't matter, and that's what you got to like about him. Josh Allen, amazing guy for the team, amazing guy for the city too as well, and I think just amazing guy all around. So, Buffalo Bills.
If you can't tell, we are big Josh Allen fans.
There you go. You got to be, right? And we support all the New York teams out here, So, and
maybe not all of them.
Well, I mean, I hope the Jets might do good, at times or
it won't be this year.
But again, they can't get out of their own way. And then when you got Robert Saleh out here, supposed to be that kind of guy. It's almost like a locker room type of guy or whatever, and hardworking. He runs up and down the steps, 90 times, a minute, and. The fact that when he has a press conference, he's kind of like, well, we'll show you guys when you talk now. I'm taking receipts, and then when we're good again, we won't even give you the time of day. Like, what? We'll get good first.
What are you talking
about? See what
Robert?
You're talking about. You know what I mean? Yeah, you do that first. You show us on the field, and then let's do something different.
It's a
people
process.
want to point in at Joe Flacco and stuff like that and stuff too, but. He hasn't been on great teams, and that offensive line, again, being banged up. You got Noah Fant that had to move back over because Mekhi Becton's out and stuff. It's just a bad team. So how is he able to – I felt bad for him even, too. It's not like he made a lot of just bad throws. He was getting pressured nonstop. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So it can't be all on him.
No, I mean, but that's the thing is, this is a process. We all knew this coming in. And you're going to take some heat. You're in the New York media. Yeah. They are very ruthless. They come right at your throat. And Robert Saleh just isn't handling it well. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because he's a very aggressive type of person, as well. So he's going to kind of throw up the boxing gloves and go right at the authors and journalists about it. So, but here's the thing, Robert, all you got to do is say, listen, trust the process. We're going to get better. It's going to happen. And we'll see you in 2 years.
And for some time early on in that game, they're holding the Baltimore Ravens back a bit. It took a little while for Lamar Jackson to get it going, and then when they finally did, again, they were just pummeling them. But even if you put Zach Wilson in at that point, he wasn't going to change that game around. So Well, there it is. Well, all right. So we're Joe. It's that time. I didn't bring the glass.
What's
the
on
jar
my
down
head?
in here again, though. But yeah, we got the weekly picks on your head, Joe. Look at that. Check that out. It's weekly pick time. It's the competition, Joe, and we're getting started. So basically, the loser of this picks at the end of the season has to drink a whole football-sized drink full of liquor. It is a fun time. Last year I had to do it. It's a blast. We can't wait to do it again. And it was a tight competition last year. We're getting going this year. And our week one, I don't have the stats up here, but we went, both of us, and we had different picks. We went 6, 9, and 1.
Terrible.
So not very good. But we did just as well as our buddy Cody and Mike Tackett, so that's not bad. So I don't feel so bad.
Guys,
and
we all did terrible.
Week one is usually our bad week anyways. We're trying to feel the teams out.
There's too many variables.
And stuff like that. And then we actually have that tie now, so we have a 6, 9, and 1.
Well, you think about this season.
Mm-hmm.
How many coaching changes, player changes, trades, there a lot changed in one offseason, especially this year. We anticipated it, and it happened. And when you get to week one, I don't care who you are. There's no way you could have had a very successful week one. It's that difficult to pick.
Yeah, when it is, it's usually somebody that don't know what they're doing, and they're just like, oh,
they're lucky.
Lion can eat a bear, I think maybe. I don't know. And it's like, oh, okay. All right, let's get to the first matchup here, Joe. We've got Thursday night.
Tomorrow
Amazon
night.
Here has the game now. So here we go with the Amazon games.
Here we go.
The Chargers and the Chiefs. Chiefs at home in the Kingdom. Chargers again without Keenan Allen. Again, questionable for J.C. Jackson to be there. Kansas City looked really good in that last game, but how are they going to do against these L.A. Chargers here that took care of your Raiders in a close game? And that everybody's on the Justin Herbert train this year.
I mean, Herbert's a really good quarterback. I mean, there's what can you say about him? He doesn't really make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
He's smart with the football, and he executes. I mean, it is what it is. Like, listen, the Raiders were getting some pressure on him, and he would kind of use his legs to create more time and then make the throws. It's that simple. And the Raiders weren't able to do that when they listen. The Raiders had 3 minutes left in the game with the ball, and they went 3 and out. Like they did. They even with all those weapons, I feel like the Raiders it was a punch in the face for them, first and foremost, and second of all, this is what happens. Just like we talked earlier in the show, when you don't play your starters in preseason games, the rust is just there because live action is way different than preseason or way different than practice, I'll say. And Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, all these big names that they have never played in the preseason games. And now week one, there's rustiness, there's misconnection, there's communication issues, and we saw that. So, but regardless, it was still a close game. They only lost by 5 points, and now the Chargers take on another divisional opponent in the Chiefs at Kansas City. This one is going to be, I think this one's going to be an amazing game. This is going to be like, I kind of anticipate this game to be not only super low scoring, but it's going to be so competitive, like up and down the field. You're going to see the defenses get the better of the offenses and vice versa. But the Chargers, I love Herbert and how well he's playing. J.C. Jackson, we still don't know as of yet if he's going to play in this game and make his debut as a Charger yet. He's questionable with his ankle issue. Keenan Allen is definitely out. So that's a big blow to the Chargers. But they do have some young, talented receivers like DeAndre Carter and Donald Parham Jr., that other tight end that they have. Seems like he's going to be out this week. So they lose a little bit of a weapon there as well. But I will also say, like Palmer, their receiver, he usually when Allen is out, he kind of goes off and takes over for him. So maybe they won't miss too much of Keenan Allen, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I would say Chargers defense played miraculously. I will say this: I'm crowning the Chargers offensive line right now as one of the best offensive lines in football, because from what I saw in week one, they were able to lock up a lot of Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones was almost a non-factor. Max Crosby, he did get a sack, but it was like later down into the game. He created a ton of pressure, but didn't really get there. So I think the Chargers have done an amazing job building this roster. And going against Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, listen, they played the Cardinals last week. I think the Cardinals were just, again, they were one of those teams that were really rusty, not executing and not making any plays, which kind of just let the Chiefs roll right through them. I think that their defense can be attacked the right way, and they can take over. The teams can be able to score on them, in other words, week to week. I don't buy into Patrick Mahomes in this offense just yet. I want to see them play a team like the Chargers. So in Kansas City, definitely a very tough place to play. And because I think this is going to be a very close game, I'll say this. I think that Kansas City is going to get the win because they're home. That's where I'm going to go with this one.
Wow, man, you led me in so many different directions in that conversation, Joe. I was hanging on every single word. It was like a crazy drama. You know, I mean, so many
You're
twists
welcome.
and turns. Because again, you're telling me how much love you have for the offensive line, crowning them. It's the best offensive line in the NFL right now.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Herbert, up and coming. Look at the depth of the wide receivers out there and stuff. But again, look at that defense. They have a better defense than the Chiefs at this time. But again, for some reason too, I feel like at home they always play better, and Patrick Mahomes still is that X factor I think that they have that still can get it done. Because if you look on the Chiefs side too, they still have a lot of talented wide receivers there too that can get it done. And the way that offense is run too, you saw what they do. Look at Andy Reid. Oh, let's bring this guy up behind center. No, move him out. Now this guy's behind center. Now this guy's moving over.
Red zone's tough.
What
man.
are you doing? You know what I mean? And just the things like that and those types of things and that coaching tree that they have there is enough to get to question too as well. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of got that mystique about them, what the Patriots sort of would get sometimes when people start to play him and he gets in those rough moments. That aura of them being them and what they do, I think, overcomes some of these teams, and they can't get it done at the end of some of. That's why you see some of these teams get there, make it close, but then they just can't break it. I think the Chargers have enough to get it done. I like to split the teams down the middle on a lot of these ones. I think the Chiefs take this one, but look at the Chargers to maybe do it here at home next time. All right.
Next game, we got the Jets at Cleveland Browns. Well,
Everybody's can't wait for that one.
This is an easy one to look at. The Jets are going to surprise everybody in week 2, and they are going to surprisingly beat the Browns. No, they're not.
Joe Flacco is getting redemption.
I do like the fact that Sauce Gardner got his first interception in week 1. He dedicated his football to his father, which was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And what a tremendous, already a huge achievement for a rookie corner in week 1 of his debut to have a interception. That is awesome. So that's something that Jet fans can kind of get behind. Now they're starting to see some of the rookies make plays. That's what you want. But the Jets, listen, I love Joe Flacco. I love the little success that they had last week. But it's just not going to be enough. This is going to be, like we said before, it's still a rebuilding season for them. No matter how you look at it, they lost Mekhi Becton, like Jimmy mentioned earlier. So because they just don't have all the pieces yet, I think, and the way Cleveland played in week 1, they played very physical. Yeah. They're going to be all over Joe Flacco. Mm-hmm. Zach Wilson, positive note, he did start practicing today. So he may be ready to go probably week 3, definitely week 4.
But just maybe keep him out for this one again so he can stay
But the
healthy,
Browns, Browns, I think they're going to be able to run on this team. I think they're going to be able to do a lot of things well. I got Cleveland at home.
Yeah, and that's the thing you think about when I said they were kind of holding Baltimore too. They didn't have J.K. Dobbins in that game though too, so that could have been even a big factor here.
And he's questionable this week as well. We have to wait until we get to see Friday's injury report.
Right. One good side of the Jets though is I think Michael Carter did pretty well for them too. Seeing what you could say is pretty good for the Jets, right? Yeah. But I see the same thing, Joe. Defense is really tough. They've gotten better. And Jets, they're just not ready. So I feel bad for Joe Flacco again. It's going to be a rough day for him trying to get it out to these guys. I see a lot of Corey Davis, again, a really traditional guy he likes to go to, trust him and stuff like that, ripping some balls here for him or whatever offense he can get. And again, the running game, just pound the rock here with both these guys. Make it easy for Jacoby Brissett. And they come out of here 2-0, the Cleveland Browns. All right.
One thing quickly to monitor is that the Jets are still banged up. They're another one of those teams that has suffered a lot of minor injuries to starting players like George Fant. He had a knee issue. Jordan Whitehead, the new safety that they acquired in free agency, he's got an ankle issue. So they have a few guys that are starting on this team that definitely help out. Something to monitor as we get farther into the week for the Jets. And then as far as the Cleveland Browns go, Amari Cooper, don't be alarmed, but he did miss today's practice, but it was seen as the Browns giving him a veteran rest day.
He gets a rest day.
So he gets a day off from practice. And Jack Conklin, their newly acquired offensive lineman, was limited as well, but nothing serious.
Yeah, I mean, he could maybe take a veteran break day on that game. You know what I mean? Against the Jets, who knows?
Just stand there. Don't have to do nothing.
Yeah, just take the game off. We're good. All right, next up, we've got the Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions. We kind of talked about this a little bit before when we were praising the Commanders for being able to do what they could do in that game. And then the Lions also as well, really giving it to the Eagles, just a few miscues here and there that really kind of put them out of that game. But defensively, I thought played really well. Offensively, at times looked good, but again, just a few too many drops for my liking and what they were doing. But again, if they could try and nip that in some of the bud here this week, I think this is going to be a really great game. And I didn't go with Detroit last week, because I thought the Eagles still had enough, but they showed me enough. I didn't go with the Commanders because I hate the Commanders. I still don't trust Carson Wentz. So I'm feeling the energy.
I get it.
It's another home game. Again, that home crowd got it bumping to where now in Ford's Field there, you can't hear anything. So I mean the noise, you have to face the
They're
noise.
excited.
There. When was the last time that happened? So I'm excited. I'm feeling it. I like the Lions in this one.
I will say this. So the Commanders came out of last week. They looked decent. They looked good on both sides of the football at times. But they came out real healthy. There's not really too much on the injury report as of today. A couple of guys suffered minor injuries, but they're going to be good to go. Only one guy, their guard, Wes Schweitzer, was held out of the practice. But other than that, pretty healthy team. Now, the Lions, on the other hand, they suffered a few drawbacks. Frank Ragnow had a groin and a foot injury, so something to monitor there. They're all-pro center. DeAndre Swift has an ankle injury. Michael Brockers, their D-end, his knees bothering him. Their other guard, Tommy Kramer, offensive tackle Taylor Decker. You're starting to see a trend here. There's way too many injuries for the liking. And newly drafted safety Melifonwu has a hamstring. And so all these guys aren't limited to coming this week. I do expect them all to be game ready by the time Friday rolls around. This is one of those games where I feel like it could go either way. I mean, this is going to be a close one for me. Man, I love Detroit. I love what they're doing in Detroit. I love Dan Campbell. I really do hate Carson Wentz. Something is telling me to try to pick the Commanders here.
Yeah,
but
I hear you. It's the injuries that are telling you that, I think.
No, because they're limited. They're not nothing serious. But I think I'm going to go with Washington in this one.
Yeah,
I think I'm going with the Commanders.
Do it. Sounds good. There you go. I already had it marked. So I had a feeling you were going there. I read your mind. All right.
You can't. There's nothing there.
All right. Well, let's take a look at the next game. We'll see if I can read your mind on this one. Tampa Bay, they always say, that New Orleans has their number. You're going to be playing at home. Jameis Winston, they looked a little rough here at the start last week, but we're able to get it done last minute here. But Tampa Bay really firing on all cylinders, except, again, that offensive line. You saw the difference with not having those guys in there. And Tom Brady really giving them heat because even within the game, too, they lost another guy. And that guy just came in the game, and he started barking them out. Like, dude, blah, blah, blah. And then he went to the center, and he's like, you tell him, blah, 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 blah. And holy moly. So if we get a whole season of Tom Brady getting knocked on his ass and some sacks here, it could get pretty exciting here in Tampa Bay in that locker room. But Saints, again, I like their defense, what they've been able to do. They will be getting pressure on Tom Brady. It's going to be tougher than usual. But what are we going to witness on the offensive side here? There's still questions here for me. Saints at home, it seems good to me, but I think I'm going to roll with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here still on this one.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa didn't really look good in their debut. Like you were mentioning, they were getting a lot of pressure. Brady was getting pressure. That flusters him. He doesn't like pressure. He doesn't like people close to him. Mm-hmm. He wants a big 6-foot vicinity. Don't let anybody any closer. And it bothers him. So it affects just like any other quarterback. Mm-hmm. But Tom Brady more so than anybody because he doesn't like to get that pressure where he might think his hand gets hit or the ball gets slapped out to cause a turnover or to make him make a miss throw.
Yeah. Throw what he doesn't want. Yep.
That's going to be really concerning. We already saw what happened in week 1 and against a team that we don't really see being super competitive, I guess you could say, especially with Dak Prescott out.
Now that they're out there, yeah.
You know, and I don't like what I saw. 19 points is all they put up. Mm-hmm. Again, and they had the ball quite often. You know, they have all their they lost Chris Godwin already. Like I don't think he's going to be able to play this upcoming week. He hurt his hamstring, I believe it is. But got to wait to see he comes back. But Julio Jones had a very prominent role. Something that we didn't kind of anticipate. We thought he was going to have a role. Don't get us wrong. Yeah. But being as late as he got signed and coming in, really sure how much of a role he was going to have. And it seemed like he was damn near a starter caliber. So
absolutely,
especially with Godwin out, you can definitely see him taking over. And you got basically twin towers at wide receiver. I love what I saw from Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
For all the critics out there that said Fournette's going to have a down year, you're full of crap. And the Saints go marching in. They're at home. The crowd's going to go nuts. I like what I saw from them last week, and quite honestly, I think they're going to be one of the most competitive teams in this division. I'm going to go with the Saints on this one. Jameis Winston is going to take down Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
He's going to sack him? Oh, I was going to say, man, that would be impressive. Yeah, this is a revenge game for him, kind of, I guess, right? Not really?
Not now.
Yeah.
Usually a revenge game is fresh.
Isn't it funny how people that were on the Jameis wagon that when they were Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans, but now that they got Tom Brady, they don't.
They forgot about him.
They hate him.
He's gonna have a chip on his shoulder, Winston. He's gonna want to prove to them, like, hey, listen, you made a mistake.
He wants to eat that W. He's gonna eat that W. He's gonna want to eat that W afterwards. I know it is. All right, here we go. Carolina and the New York Football Giants. Giants riding high. Everybody wants to crown them already as the division champions, or even making a push for the division.
I mean, they had success. Hey, listen, right now they got to win.
Hey, they're at the top division now, so hey, it's might as well, right? But I thought they were fortunate to get what they were able to get. This is the one thing when a team like that, and again, when you're a fan of them, you have to think realistic goals. My one realistic goal: be competitive. They showed that. Mm-hmm. Okay, see improvement on guys. Saquon Barkley improved, looked pretty good. Sterling Shepard stayed healthy throughout the game, which is amazing. Daniel Jones, not too bad. Still, again, getting that pressure and those strip fumbles. And then, again, looking down the receiver, still throwing that interception. He gets like a C on that one. We'll see moving forward here as long as I see progression.
I'm still waiting for
Carolina Panthers,
to be the starter.
Carolina Panthers. They were in a knockout, dragout game. It was tough. There was a lot of emotion behind that game. They're wanting to come back firing on all cylinders here. Again, you got Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. You've got Baker Mayfield here. You've got that defense. You've got everything it takes. This is your bounce-back game. Giants, even as of late, don't really play well at home, I don't think, either. So I think you can really get the New York Giants here. I like the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, it's real simple. The Panthers, I think, are just a better team coming in.
Yeah.
We thought that the Titan game was kind of a little iffy. You know what I mean? Coming in, like, we thought, like, before week 1, we were like, oh, well, the Titans should win.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, they should.
But it wasn't a slam dunk because we didn't know what to expect from the Giants, Well,
if you look at some of their corners, plus they even one corner is gonna be out now too. Greedy Williams guy, his brother, is not gonna be playing in the game either.
That's okay. They got plenty of depth.
Not really. No namers. You know what I mean? So, not very good. So, when you come down to it, you look at this team that had to trade away like a James Bradbury and stuff like that. Guys that were good starters. Our guy, at middle linebacker had to just cut this money. So, you didn't expect a whole lot out of this team. So, when they did play hard last year with some of these guys, it was really inspiring. But again, it's a good story, not the predicting the future. Carolina all the way, right, Joe?
Yeah, I like Baker Mayfield, what I saw from him last week. And, obviously I love the Panthers. I think offensively and defensively they're a team to be reckoned with. And I think the Giants are going to kind of be a little bit overwhelmed when they get into New York.
Yep, absolutely.
I
All right,
got
next
Carolina.
we got the New England Patriots and the Pittsburgh Steelers here, Joe. Pittsburgh, a good game, coming off a good win. New England, Mac Jones is good to go. The back's okay, but how will
he's limited?
How will he play? Is he gonna be?
He's going to play,
so,
but I think he's going to end up playing with some stiffness. So it's definitely, it might affect him. It might not, but he's practicing right now, limited fashion.
Yeah, and we didn't bring up the game that much, but again, Miami at home against the
What's
Patriots,
to
they
bring
get
up?
it done. Yeah, and they did it on all phases. It wasn't anything that like Tua really lit anybody up and stuff like that. They were opportunistic, got some good plays going. Defense made some plays.
I'll say this
and
though,
just New England wasn't there.
McDaniels.
So whoever's calling the plays, right? Who is it?
Yeah, it's McDaniels. McDaniels for the Dolphins to go for it on fourth down, and then with that slant route to Jalen Waddle and Tua. That was a super tight window to fit that in, and he put it in the perfect spot and led to a touchdown. So I will say this. I'll say that offense has a lot of balls. McDaniels is definitely an aggressive play caller. Little different. I mean, similar to Kyle Shanahan, but I feel like he's a little bit more aggressive. Like he's willing to go for it. You know what I mean? Rather than kind of like just run the ball type of thing.
Right.
So I liked what I saw from the Dolphins last week. And then the Patriots, we kind of expected this, didn't we? The offense is not going to be run as well as it used to be when Josh McDaniels was the lead guy making all the calls. And, there's going to be a little bit of a drawback for the quarterback there for them. So because of that, continuity is no longer there in the offensive staff. So we saw them be very kind of lackluster in week one. And honestly, I don't think it get much better in week two. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. I liked more what I saw from Pittsburgh than Patriots, and that's the team to beat is the Steelers.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the Steelers, too. Again, they played hard. Mitch showed that he can get it done, and I think that's overall with personnel. They're just better. That defense facing against that stagnant New England offense. I feel bad. Whoever might be calling the plays, whether it be Matt Patricia or Joe Judge, just maybe that show your face that day or something. Just cover yourself completely up. All right, here we go. The Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars. They looked pretty good last week. Again, I thought they had enough to get the win. They were there. They were inspiring, and then they let them off the hook. Just couldn't get it done. But Colts, they got shocked again and again, just feeling out the movements, I think, with all this. Again, when you have a day where Jonathan Taylor can run like that and you don't pull out a win, that's tough. But Michael Pittman looked good. Like I said, everything else ran pretty good. I think just a little rust, knocking off the rust. This is going to be a close game, too, again. It's a tight divisional game, but I think the Colts still have enough personnel-wise to get it done. I don't think really home field advantage is a factor here for Jacksonville. I think it's going to be a real good game, but I like the Indianapolis Colts in this one.
Yeah, and the thing about the Colts is so for the Jaguars coming out of last week, they came out completely healthy. There is actually literally no injuries to report, limited anything. So very healthy team so far. The Colts, however, they're going to lose Alec Pierce, the rookie wide receiver that I really love. He ended up getting a concussion, so he'll be out of this game. Michael Pittman Jr. was limited with a hip injury, and DeForest Buckner, also a hip injury.
Yeah. And
Kenny Moore, their corner, all limited. So nothing real concerning.
No.
Everyone's going to be end up playing except Alec. But in the Colts going into the Jags, this is kind of, it's one of those interdivision things. It's going to be a close game, I feel like. Nobody's going to blow each other out here. I do like the defense that I saw from Jacksonville, but they still made some mistakes. This is going to happen with Jacksonville because not only do they have a new coaching staff, but everyone's still trying to learn everything. The new offense with Trevor Lawrence, trying to understand it fully and what have you. But the Colts, I think, are in a little bit better shape. I like Indianapolis, but I do not like their defense. Let's just let that be known.
boom. All right, next we got the Miami Dolphins and the Baltimore Ravens. Joe, last year we got to see these guys
this is a good
get
one.
out. I mean, it was a good
gonna
matchup
be
then,
fun.
and Miami took it to them.
Yeah,
but that was
I
in
don't know.
Miami again, though. But here we go, Baltimore Ravens. I think J.K. Dobbins is healthy enough to come back in this game. I think that's
He's
what they
still
had said,
questionable.
But
I don't
again,
think he is.
the Baltimore Ravens at home, they play better at home. Miami, we'll really see what this team is made of against this team where a lot of people high on the Baltimore Ravens here. I think it's going to be a really close game, but I'm just going to give the slight edge to the Baltimore Ravens here being at home.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the Dolphins, you know, they kind of escaped last week with a pretty healthy roster. And honestly, I don't think there was nothing really to report for the Ravens in terms of injuries as well. But what I did like is I liked what the Ravens did defensively. I liked what I saw from Lamar Jackson. We saw him
he
throw
threw
a lot
some
better.
Nice dimes on there, yeah.
And you know, it took a little bit to get started, but they definitely did their thing. Miami Dolphins, they're another team. They're another one of those teams that it's like, what did we really see what they're capable of in week one? Like, are they going to be the difference in this division in the AFC East? Like, you know, I like what they have talent wise, but how far can they really go? This is going to be a true testament. If they are able to pull out a surprise win against the Ravens, how much are people going to lose their minds? Because this is a team that, honestly, they're not supposed to beat.
Right.
Very tough defense. You got Lamar Jackson to contend with. This is going to be a really good game. But I'm sorry. I'm going to go with the home team on this one. I'm going to go with the Ravens, and I want the Dolphins to prove me wrong on this.
I think they should have flexed this game out to the 8 o'clock game, the 8:20 game. Because I don't know if I really want to watch Green Bay and Chicago, but maybe. I mean, that might be turning into something.
You don't
Who
get
knows?
a choice.
I know, we don't.
We
I
get
don't know.
they always listen. You know what's
I
funny?
want to be able to choose the time. Why can't I do that?
Honestly, whoever the scheduler, I know there's a panel
there's
of
a
them or
whole
whatever.
group, and there's one mastermind
But here's
behind
what
it
they
all,
should
but-
do: is every night game, every primetime game, after they do the whole schedules, because they're anticipating these teams to have a really good game matchup or something like that. But when we get to week one and you kind of evaluate week one, week two, then maybe you should always be able to flex those games, no matter what. Those primetime games should be able to be flexed. So if you get a Chicago, Green Bay, I don't know, Rodgers and the Packers, they're not all there. Maybe we should flex it out. Let's put in a divisional game or something like that. You know, make it a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, maybe that's what they went with so many revenge games early on in the season here, right at week one, because on the Peyton Manning broadcast too, that they brought it up that like even when he was with the Broncos and went back to the Colts, he didn't go back there until like week 11 and face that team again.
Right.
And they weren't going to boo him either way. It's, because it's not like he left them for anything too, but not having that pressure, being so far distant from when it happened. Russell Wilson, this thing just happened. Baker Mayfield, this thing just happened in this offseason, and boom, you got him week one. Everybody's still angry about it all and everything and stuff.
I mean,
that's a lot of pressure on everybody.
I would question not only that primetime game, but also the Buccaneers-Cowboys game. Like, why did you think? And I get it.
Yeah,
Jerry Jones is like a power guy on the panel, and he kind of gets whatever he wants. But
yeah, and they also thought that last year it was a close game. The Cowboys had a chance; they almost could pull it off, but maybe they're hoping. Yeah, this is the year.
Last year's last year.
Yeah, and they didn't get it done. That's what they trying to do, dude.
They always seem to lose on primetime games.
Yeah, a lot of times, yeah.
So it's like, why would you think that's good?
Prime time when the Giants play them in Monday Night Football. That'd be great. So you were going the Ravens on that one, right?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let's go with the Atlanta Falcons now and the LA Rams. LA Rams look lethargic. The Atlanta Falcons came out strong. You had your guy Marcus Mariota get there, and they were really testing that Saints game early. But again, eventually the Saints got it turned around, got it moving, and came out of there with a win. But it was a close game throughout the whole thing, low scoring.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like we talked about Marcus Mariota, what he could do for this offense, and he really did a lot. He threw the ball very nicely, didn't throw a pick, but he did lose a fumble. But really kind of scorched people with his legs as well. So he's utilizing both facets of his game, and it's throwing some defenses off. That's kind of really what started it all off for Atlanta. They mixed it up offensively and kind of kept the other team on their heels. So now you look at Atlanta coming into this game. They're playing the Rams. Rams are kind of pissed off right now. They got embarrassed in primetime action opening day weekend. So
displaying again, the championship guy. The guys were there too for the ceremony too, to put the banner up.
Yep.
The
unveiling,
the Rock again. Everything was there for them, and they came out like that.
Yeah, I mean, so I look for the Rams to kind of straighten some things out here. They're going to be home again, so Atlanta's got to travel to them. Not that really matters because they're going east to west, but I think the Rams are going to make a tremendous effort and try to display how much better they are than Atlanta. I got Rams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking the same thing again. You got to try and right the ship. Again, if you really feel like you're a true Super Bowl contender to go back to and win this, dear defending champions, you should be able to look at this Atlanta Falcons team and be able to take them down, especially at home. I think Matthew Stafford needs to get a little more comfortable again, too. It seemed like he was getting a little bit flustered with things here and not on the same page with some of the other receivers besides Cooper Kupp. It seemed like he's like, you guys ain't getting it for me. Boom, 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 Cooper. I just got to go back to you again. And then end up being pressed. And the one dumb thing that he does, and I know it's worked before, and we've said it bad about Patrick Mahomes too because it's worked for him too, but the no-look pass, the no-look to try and look a guy say, no, I'm not going to look at Cooper Kupp this time, but I'm going to throw it to him still and still look that way. And you overthrew him, and that where it was tipped, and now is that an interception? You could have just looked him off. And then look at him and throw it again, but you had to go with the no look. And that was another dumb mistake here that the ball floated and another turnover that cost him.
No quarterback in the NFL can do a no look, a true no look pass. They're moving their head that way, but their eyes are over here.
But his eyes stayed way over there and tried to do a true. And like you said, no one can do it, and it doesn't work. And it failed them miserably there. So go back to basics, get it done. And come out there.
You're
with a
better
win.
than that.
Yeah, you are. You are better than that. God damn it, Matt. We
stop
stick up for you
overthrowing people too, because that was another problem that he had in week one.
Yep.
So this is again. It goes back to preseason. How many times did Stafford and his starting receivers play together in preseason games?
Yeah, because even the one where he threw up in the thing and the guy did like an out route, it's like, was that an option route where he thought the guy should have went up? And then that's what it is, where he just threw it obviously somewhere else. But here we go. Let's get to the next game. The Seattle Seahawks coming off an emotional win, and the 49ers. These guys are rivals here. Maybe not so much now because you look at the Seattle Seahawks and say they got to be rebuilding, but they look at you and say, no, we're just retooled and we're ready to go again. And that's the thing about the Seattle Seahawks too is, and I thought maybe it was even just the Russell Wilson thing. We'll see as the season pulls out, but these guys are scrappy too. When do you think they're going to even do terrible? They've made moves to really make like a push or even win some good games here to kind of say, wow, hey, look at that. They actually fought hard in that. But the 49ers, rough game last week coming out of the start for Trey Lance. The weather, like you said, it could be that. It could be that. Elijah Mitchell down. And now they've got Wilson going to be in there running the ball, right? Jeff Wilson, I think it is. And, George Kittle not going to be there, I think, this game again. Maybe. We'll see. But that's a factor there, too. But you've got still Brandon Ayuk there, Debo. Enough weapons here to get it done against this Seattle team, but if they play hard like they did last week, it'll be a little tough. But again, without Jamal Adams, that could be a factor there at that safety position to maybe get somebody over deep and maybe get the running game going with a little Wilson and get Debo involved in that too as well. Get some of those plays like he was doing last year with the run game. And add a little Trey Lance in with it too. Just sprinkle it around so you don't know who the ball might be going to. And come out of here with a win. So I like San Francisco. They're going to be at home. Seattle, you don't have to deal with the 12-man here. You're home. The beautiful weather here. You don't worry about rain. I like the 49ers.
The only positive stat that Debo had, he was the only positive player last week.
Yeah.
He ran the ball well. He caught the ball with limited catches, but still made the most that he could probably make out of it. But all in all, the offense was sloppy. It didn't look good, and part of that was a factor with the rain and how messy the field conditions were. Not like it was an excuse, but it did hinder what they were trying to do with Trey Lance. Look at now that they're home, maybe they'll have better luck. Maybe they'll finally be able to display fully what Trey Lance is capable of with not kind of crazy puddle weather and waterfalls everywhere.
I like that.
Seattle.
Crazy puddle weather.
Seattle Seahawks, listen, they came out and they shocked everybody. They shocked the Broncos. Everybody kind of crowned the Broncos because they had Russell Wilson and said, oh, they're going to be such a difficult team to beat, and they're going to win the division, and then they're going to go in the playoffs. And, well, it doesn't look that hot, does it now? Seattle took it right to them. Geno Smith, that's right, Geno Smith started for the Seahawks and helped them win and beat the Broncos in their opening debut in Seattle. So now here's a true test of Seattle. Now we're going to get a good range to see how much better Seattle is. They're playing the 49ers. Their defense is a very solid group of guys. They have a great pass rush. Right now there's no injuries to report as of right now today. Probably more likely tomorrow. But for this game, both teams seem pretty healthy coming in. And I like the Niners at home. I think we're going to finally get to see what this offense is fully capable of now that there's no, crazy water puddle weather going on.
Hydroplaning going on. All right, let's look at this game. And I bet, again, when they made the schedule, this is something they really were excited about. You got the Cowboys and the Bucks week 1. Then you've got the Cowboys and the Bengals week 2. I mean, for Cowboys fans, initially even looking at the beginning of this schedule, how did you guys even expect that you were going to make it to the Super Bowl with some of the teams you have to face here? I mean, the Bengals started out a little rough there, too. Again, Joe Burrow with the turnovers. But this is the perfect timing with the happen. It's a sad injury there for Dak Prescott. I feel bad for that whole thing for him. But right. What you see where the Dallas Cowboys are offensively. Defensively, I think they're going to create some pressure again. They're going to try and mix it up here and get to Joe Burrow. But really, I think they need to just play it safe here, get some good runnings with Joe Mixon, get that going, and then open up the offense altogether for the other guys, get Jamar Chase involved and stuff. I like the Bengals on this one. I'm not going to get too much into it just because, again, you got Cooper Rush starting here. For them, their best option is try and do a 2 running back package, get Zeke going finally. So when you paid him there to run, try your best to get him something here, and then sprinkle out some short passes to Tony Pollard or some speed rushes with him off the edge. Get creative here, Kellen, will you?
The difficult part about this is with what O-line are they going to be able to
I know,
run.
right?
So, with that being said,
and all the time because they just let them by anyways, right? Here.
And also the other part of their backup quarterback starting, I don't expect a whole lot from the Cowboys right now. I do think that they can still kind of make it work, but they're playing a former team that was in the Super Bowl that was seen as one of these teams that are not only just really good, but they even got better. So the Bengals, they kind of got a big letdown in week 1. They didn't really perform well. Joe Burrow didn't perform well. But I look for this, leading up into this game. I think Cincinnati's going to, get back to basics. They're going to get smart with the football. Let Joe Mixon kind of, take some pressure off of Burrow. Give Mixon the ball a little bit more. Then start to spread the ball around to all the weapons that he has. And for Dallas, I think Cooper Rush is going to fall in love with Dalton Schultz this week. So you fantasy owners out there, you might want to be able to take a good look at Schultz this week because usually that's where Cooper Rush really does favor the tight end. And then CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is also going to be obviously another go-to guy of his.
He's got to be the crutch at this point.
But the problem, and this is why I think Dalton Schultz has a bigger part of this game is because everybody's going to be so concentrated on CeeDee Lamb that I feel like Schultz is going to be wide open a lot. So watch for that kind of battle to go back and forth, but I got the Bengals in this one.
All right, next up we've got the Houston Texans and the Denver Broncos. What can we see out of this one, Joe? I mean, now I've watched week 1. Like, I'm excited about this Texans game, because, again, I was dogging them all preseason and stuff, even though I do have – I don't have a crush on him, but I really have some affection here for Davis Webb out here. So, I mean –
Davis Mills,
yeah. So, I mean, at Houston, we could get anything out of this because especially how – bad, I think Denver kind of got off in that game, too. I mean, was it all Seattle? I mean, the emotions and stuff like that, too. But they didn't get a whole lot of pressure. So it wasn't until late in the game that finally Bradley Chubb was able to get a sack or two. But not really crazy
Randy
on
Gregory
defense.
caused that fumble on DK.
But you know who looked really good in the wide receiver room that nobody really brings up a lot is KJ Hamler looked really nice in that game too. He was able to get not only, and you talk about wide receivers and like Allen Robinson, I think some of that was just even not the connection with Matthew Stafford, but you saw him run routes and run them to completion to where he kind of ran into the secondary as well. If he kind of ran the route and then settled in that spot, in that open spot in the zone and sat, he could have probably had a couple other receptions because it looked like even on that one bootleg, it looked like Stafford wanted to go to him, and then it was too late. By the time he looked back at him, he was out of it. But KJ Hamler was making some moves like too when it got pressure. Russell Wilson getting pressured and the plays kind of broken out, get into that open spot and get some receptions. But when you look at this Houston team and Denver's going to want to bounce back after that. They're feeling blood in their mouth right now after getting punched in the mouth by the Seattle Seahawks. Houston, they played really nice. It's nice they pull out of there with a tie. Didn't exactly get that win. I think they're going to play hard for these guys, but I don't think it's enough. I like Denver at home.
Yeah, I didn't like what I saw from Denver and Seattle at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, you played a team that you were expected to beat. Don't get me wrong, Seattle did play really well, especially defensively. Geno Smith, I feel like, escaped a few bad plays that should have happened but didn't. Mm-hmm. And Denver, with all that happening, Denver still fell short. I'm not buying Russell Wilson at all as the new quarterback of Denver. Don't get me wrong, I still think he has enough gas left in the tank to help this team win. But what I noticed also in Seattle is a lot of, inaccurate throws, a lot of overthrows to receivers, not really connecting. And defensively, Denver didn't look well, just like we kind of anticipated. Houston, on the other hand, their offense looks pretty darn tough. I mean, tough to deal with. So I think that gives Houston a really good chance of actually going into Denver and stealing a win. And also defensively, Houston showed some flashes last week that I think they're going to do well going up against Denver. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think in the end, the Texans
he's
going to get their win.
Putting it down putting money on Texans. Look at that. Boom. I like it. Spicy. All right, let's move on to the next one, Joe. Two teams that just suffered some losses, and they were tough. The Cardinals need to bounce back here, but we got your Las Vegas Raiders. Let's see. What do you think you got in this one? The Raiders are going to be at home at the Death Star. Cardinals, again, that defense not really looking right like they probably should have been. And the Raiders, I think, just feeling out their spot here with Josh McDaniels in this offense. Yeah,
and you saw both teams struggle, just like a lot of teams in the league week one. Teams that didn't start their starters in preseason. And it showed a lot of poor play on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. And on top of all that, especially for the Raiders, new coaching staff, new schemes, new defense to learn, new offense. Mm-hmm. And I feel like until Derek Carr and the rest of the team gets the playbook down 100%, you're not going to see, as good a play as you saw like last year with John Gruden's playbook and how they understood it inside and out. So I feel like that's also part of the equation for the Raiders. In Arizona, the only thing I could say is like rustiness, period. Like it's the same. They all know the playbook on that side, and I don't think there's any real excuse for it. So hopefully Arizona kind of gets back on track this week and Kyler Murray and be able to distribute the football. But again, Arizona still doesn't have all their starters. A.J. Green, after 1 year with the Cardinals, now in his second year, he looks really bad. Had a very hard time getting separation in week one. And Rondale Moore, the rookie from a year ago, did not play. There's some question of him even playing in week two to kind of give them a spark. And still no Hopkins. He's got 5 more games to go after a suspension. So that is another big blow to them. And then defensively, they didn't look good, just like Jimmy said. Raiders, on the other hand, I feel like they're going to get it's hard not to get good when you have this many weapons at your disposal. Mm-hmm. The one concern for me still is that offensive line. They didn't play terrible, but they didn't play real good either. Hopefully they can get a little bit better. And for God's sakes, Josh McDaniels, what are you doing rotating offensive linemen? That doesn't make any sense. I don't think any head coach in the NFL has ever done that. I think he's probably the first. He's like, oh, we'll just keep them fresh. No, they need to stay in certain spots and play together. But anyway, regardless of all that, I'm going to go with the Raiders on this one because they're home, and I feel like they're going to be able to make more plays in Arizona.
All right, yeah, and I'm feeling what you're feeling here too. I would say, I think a lot of times in that game, Derek Carr was really trying to target Adams a lot.
17 attempts. Yeah. You think that's a little too much?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's got to trust the other weapons that he has. A guy is around. So
one other thing that I'll say too about McDaniel's play calling, which was very different from his days in New England, is usually you have an outlet.
Yeah, yeah.
Last week, there was no outlet. Mm-hmm. It was almost like he wanted to attack deep down the field all the time. And even on the short game that they did call, it was like, just like you said, Carr was like almost not forcing the ball, but maybe throwing it a little too much. Because when you make 17 attempts to Davante Adams, and then at the time, I don't know if the stat is still correct, but at the time when I looked at it, it was like 7 attempts each for Waller and Hunter Renfrow, something like that. That's a vast disparity between the three receivers.
Yeah. I can't even look at that. See if I see receptions. Well, if you look at this, yeah, it's like 4 receptions for Waller, 3 for Renfrow, and yeah, it was 6 targets apiece.
Right,
They each got 6. So there you go. And then again, you see Davante Adams at 17.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You got to spread the
it's
ball around.
Like, yeah, we know what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, dude, talk about, like the Cooper Cup and
just so everybody knows, if you remember Darren Waller, when they went up against the Ravens Monday Night Football, Derek Carr in that game, because if everybody remembers, Waller used to be a Raven. And the Raiders signed him off their practice squad. He wanted to make a point that, Waller's doing this now. He threw 19 attempts to Darren Waller when he played his old team.
Right.
You can't do that.
You can't have it predetermined what you're going to do with it.
You have to continually spread the ball around and make the defenses play everybody, not just one guy.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, let's get up to the next matchup here, Joe, and that is the one that I said I think we should flex out of here. But, the Chicago Bears, hey, they came up with a win there in the flood. And despite even the weapons that we say that he doesn't really have, look at that. Yeah. Kwame St. Brown gets a touchdown and stuff too. Justin Fields, getting it done, there at home. But Green Bay, again, starting off slow. And I brought this up last week when I tried to talk myself into them against the Vikings. He's made it clear that he owns the Chicago Bears. Doesn't get to talk trash to the home team fans because now they're going to be playing in Green Bay. I think they kind of get the ship afloat here and back on track here, and it's a good game to try and get these guys more settled down. And again, hopefully, if he does get Alan Lazard back, that would be a big key guy that he really depends on here. But again, you got to get the running backs together too, because he wasn't able to connect with Aaron Jones a few times too, where it dropped like screen pass and things like that. We'll get the tape, see what you did wrong. Let's work at it. Let's get better. Week 2, I like the Packers at home.
Yeah, I think you're going to see just that happening with guys returning from injuries. David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins, as of right now, is seen as limited participants in practice today. Alan Lazard as well. John Runyon, the guard, was the only full participant out of the injured players. And for the Bears, they just don't really have that anything kind of major. Riley Reif is limited, and Velus Jones Jr. But for the Packers and the Bears, this is kind of like one of those black and blue games. Like, this is a very physical game. They both get at it, get after it. And if you ask Rodgers, he owns the Bears. So let's see if that is still true this week. The Bears, they played pretty well. I mean, yeah, it was heavily inclement weather. Like, rain was like falling in buckets. And they were still able to conquer the 49ers. But this is a different beast altogether, especially when they're a little healthier. I would say that as long as it's trending where these linemen are coming back, and Allen Lazard as well. I think Green Bay is going to show people just exactly the reason why Rodgers owns the Bears. I got Green Bay.
And one thing you had brought up to me before when we had discussed the Packers, you would like to see a little more Robert Tonyan get involved, too, in this offense.
I would. But, I mean, I don't know what ever happened, because if you remember, like, Sterling Sharp, when he was a Green Bay Packer, or Shannon Sharp. No, not Shannon. Sterling.
Sterling.
When Sterling Sharp was a Green Bay Packer, yes, he was a receiver, but they also lined him up as a tight end as well. And
they had like Bubba Franks. They had
right.
always had
But they utilized the tight end position way more
they did.
than now, and I kind of wonder why. Because when you have a guy like Robert Tonyan, who I compare him to like a George Kittle. A guy that can do both things really well. A guy that can block for you and release and receive the football as well. Very physical type of receiver. Now coming back from injury, I hope that they utilize him more, especially in this game. Like, why if you have an issue with your receivers and them dropping the football wide open and what have you, Tonyan can catch. Tonyan can run after the catch. Let this man live.
Yeah, it targeted 5 times, 3 catches for 36 yards in that last game.
It needs to be more than that. It needs to be 10 attempts.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, again, if you talk about you can't trust these other wide receivers, Christian Watson, Doubs, you know Tonyan. He's good old reliable to you. You know what I mean? You know Randall Cobb. He's reliable. That you asked him to bring him back just for you. Sammy Watkins, it's not like he's completely washed up. He's decent, too. I mean, you got some guys there.
Well,
I
he's
think
a little
again,
washed up.
Yeah, I hear you, but I mean, still a veteran. You should be able with Rodgers. You should be able to make it work and get it done. So
and you would think
work out the wrinkles of what you did first week, wash it off.
Yeah, you would think Watkins can catch still.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't know what's going on.
Right, something, But here we go. Let's go on to one of the Monday. We got a doubleheader tonight, or a Monday night, Joe.
Monday night. Yes.
Here we go. Let's get into the first one. It's the Tennessee Titans now, and the Buffalo Bills. Titans last year's not AFC champion, but they were the number 1 seed and got knocked off early here. And now they got knocked off early in the week 1 here by the New York Football Giants. They faced the tougher team in New York, the Buffalo Bills, and they have to travel to Buffalo. They don't have to go very far.
No, it's no big deal.
But still, a team that just lit it up against the Los Angeles Rams. How are they going to do that, Joe? How are these guys going to be able to take down the Buffalo Bills?
They're not.
The juggernaut that they are.
They're not. It's that simple. Like the Buffalo Bills, listen, they took on the Rams, and I know they're not the same Rams, but they took on the Rams and just utterly just beat them up for all 4 quarters. You think the Titans stand a chance? I don't. Buffalo is going to concentrate on Derrick Henry and make them one-dimensional and say, hey, Ryan, you got to beat us with your arm or legs, whatever you choose. You choose. But I don't think it's going to be enough. I honestly think that the Buffalo Bills, they are so stout on defense. They are so good on offense that it's going to be way too much for the Titans to even be competitive in this game. I got the Bills all the way.
Yeah, and how much do you see now that not having Landry in that spot on defense for the Titans too has maybe affected that defense as well?
Yeah, I don't think it affected it that much.
Had some pressure.
I mean, to lose Landry, yeah, you lost a pass rusher, but does it make a whole defense? No. I mean, would it have helped? Yes, but I don't think it would have been the end all be all for them to even get a win.
All right, here we go. Next up, I'm going to agree with you too with Buffalo. I feel the same way too. And Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles here, Joe.
Yeah, I mean the Vikings, they were a pleasant surprise in week 1. Really put it to, I don't even know who they played that it was that bad. They just outplayed them.
The Vikings?
Yeah,
the Vikings played
Packers.
the Packers, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't even a contest, to be honest. But again, Green Bay, they didn't have their line pretty much. Like, they were missing the guard, 2 tackles, and their number 1 receiver. So when you're missing multiple players like that, it's really hard to win. Vikings, though, they capitalized on it. I mean, they played really good defense, which I was surprised about. I didn't think that their defense was going to be as good as it was. And then Justin Jefferson, what can you say about the guy? The guy is he really is reminiscent of like a Stephon Diggs, a guy that runs phenomenal routes. He has the speed, the size, all that. I mean, well, Diggs doesn't have so much of size, but he's very dynamic of a receiver. So very hard to stay with. it's going to be a big challenge because, listen, the Eagles do have a couple of really good corners themselves, and James Bradbury and Darius Slay.
Yep.
Those guys are seen as shutdown corners. Now you're going to be tested, Eagles. The Eagles D is definitely going to be tested. Kirk Cousins had a phenomenal first week. And then the Eagles, what can you say? Jalen Hurts and company, A.J. Brown and whatever, Devonta Smith, they all played pretty darn well. They put up a lot of points. It's just going to be really what it's going to come down to in this game is who plays better defense. That's it. That's really what it's going to come down to. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to go with Philly on this one. They're home, and I think that the stadium's going to be rocking with the Eagles. Their home debut game. I'll go with the Eagles here.
All right, here he's going with the Eagles. Again, I hear you there with the home crowd getting involved. That is a game changer for them. Again, Philadelphia Eagles, I think they were not expecting what they got out of the Detroit Lions. They're lucky, I think, that they played a team like the Lions, though, too, where there's not a whole lot of expectations. Minnesota Vikings came out strong, and I think they have a better game plan involved here on offense, though, what they want to do, and I think they'll be able to execute it against the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles, again, if they go full out, pass, forget the run, and then Jalen Hurts is kind of running for his life to try and make something out of something. We saw even last week, they lined up trips left, right? Set up, it's a total wide receiver screen, right? One of the wide receivers, I forget who it was, but he cut off to set up for the wide receiver screen, bubble screen, and he throws it right to the guy that's blocking. What are you doing? Even if he wasn't even that pressured. So get your head right. If he's still trying to figure out things like that, I see some issues here for them. So I like the Minnesota Vikings here. And I hate the Eagles, too, so whatever. So that'd be nice. There we go. So then maybe if the Giants pull out a victory again, hey, we could be up the top there still, and the Eagles suffer a loss. So win-win for me. We'll see. But that's it for us. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and there's our picks. So let's see how we do. Maybe we bounce back this week. We usually do week 2.
I think we're going to bounce back, Jim. I got a good feeling about this.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think maybe only you will bounce back.
Who knows?
I think I'm going to.
We got a lot of different ones.
I'm calling it right now that I'm down by 2 games.
We'll see. Again, next time I'll have the jar so you guys can see what we have to drink out of it and stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're trying to get some live shows in the works, so we'll keep you posted about that. A lot of things in the works. So it's a great, exciting season already. We can't
crazy.
wait to share it with all you guys.
Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Thanks for the questions or comments down below.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it. Listen, if you're new to the show and you made it this far, or if you're just checking in, do us a huge favor. Head over to YouTube, search us up, Football on the No Show. Hit the subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell, let you guys know when we go live. You can also follow us on Facebook if you don't prefer YouTube. Same deal.
Yeah,
become a member, become a
deal.
nodal. And also, podcasts. Anywhere you can get your podcast, Spotify, iTunes, you name it, we're there. Make sure you hit a follow. And if you want to be more interactive, do what we tell you. Go to YouTube. Follow us. Drop comments down below.
On the video.
Ask questions. We're here to help everybody, even fantasy-wise. If you got any fantasy questions, hit us up. We're here to help. Thanks, everybody, so much. We'll see you next week.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the No with Jim and Joe.